Chapter 2861. Ning Shu hesitated and asked, "Grand Uncle isn't here. Did something happen?" Uncle Zhang smiled. "What do you think will happen?" Ning Shu didn't ask any more. He walked into the passage and returned to the system space. The first thing he did was to throw the star stones he had obtained into the law of nothingness. After wandering around the peerless martial art, Ning Shu felt that the world had shrunk again. He had made a mark, but now the mark was getting shorter and shorter. This was something he could feel. The world was indeed shrinking. If it kept shrinking, would it shrink to the size of the law of nothingness? Even if the world shrank, it couldn't shrink the law of nothingness. The world was still yellow sand. There wasn't even a weed. There was no sign of life at all. This world probably didn't have any life because of the threat of the law of nothingness. If it was born, the law of nothingness might explode and devour all life. After throwing in a few star stones, Ning Shu got some life force for this world. Even if it couldn't give birth to life, it could increase the power of the law of nothingness. When the time came, he would have a better chance of dealing with the law of nothingness. Ning Shu sat on the shore of the law of nothingness for a long time. He stared at the law of nothingness in a daze. The law of nothingness was like stagnant water. There were no ripples on the surface. It was motionless. It felt like mercury. Ning Shu stared until his eyes were sore. He felt that the law of nothingness had expanded a little under his eyes. Was this a provocation? The world was shrinking, and the law of nothingness was expanding. One day, the two would collide. Oh my God, what would happen then? Wouldn't that be an explosive contact? Ning Shu hugged his head. He was having a headache. He hoped that one wouldn't shrink and the other wouldn't expand. If something like that really happened, she would have no choice but to hand it over. It was too pretentious. Couldn't he give her some time? Give her time to become strong and then deal with the law of nothingness. He decided not to look at it. Looking at it wouldn't solve any problems. He might as well try to comprehend the space laws. Perhaps one day he would be able to open up a stable space and move the law of nothingness into it. First, she strengthened the enchantments of the 3 law cities. Ning Shu then went to the spatial city to comprehend the laws of space. She could construct space, but the space was not big. Sometimes, it was the size of a bubble. As long as it was enclosed, no matter what the shape of the space was, it was still space. As long as the space was stable enough. Right now, the stable space channel could reach a length of 30 meters. It sounded quite long, but when it came to traversing between planes, in the end, the damaged part of the plane was the difference between the Earth and the Moon and a grain of rice. He wondered how long it would take for the 4th level of the 9 Palace Mountain to connect to the world of reincarnation. However, 30 meters was clearly not enough. How did others manage to construct such a long and stable passageway in an instant? Ning Shu could only slowly practice lengthening the spatial passageway. He also tried to speed it up. He was fast, but the spatial passageway he constructed was not stable. It quickly collapsed, let alone walking through the passageway. Therefore, he couldn't rush things, so he could only take it slow. Perhaps when he was familiar with it, he could quickly construct a spatial passageway. He was not good at it, so Ning Shu could only spend more time on it. Ning Shu was comprehending the laws of space. His heart moved. Someone had touched the array of the world of reincarnation. This array was used by Li Si to inform her and spread information. Li Si was informing her. Ning Shu did not hesitate. He quickly opened the black hole and entered the world of reincarnation. Holding the black bone umbrella, he headed towards the pool of rebirth. Beside the pool of reincarnation, there were many souls. They were clearly separated. One side had the advantage of numbers, while the other side only had Li Si. No, he was just a skeleton. He seemed to be alone. In terms of momentum, Li Si's side had lost. Ning Shu was furious. The pool of rebirth in the world of reincarnation was at a crucial moment, and these people were causing trouble again. Previously, there was a group of people who insisted on leaving the world of reincarnation to take a look at the outside world. They felt that the outside world was full of gold and treasures. They were pushed into the pool of rebirth by her. Now, they had their eyes on the pool of rebirth. They wanted to take advantage of the souls that were reborn. Ning Shu was not surprised. There were no more soul stones in this world. If these souls wanted to become stronger, they could only take advantage of these souls. Ning Shu felt that he should form a team to intimidate hell. Otherwise, the entire world of reincarnation would be in chaos. Especially when the pool of rebirth outside was about to mature. Although the Thunder Qilin was intimidating, he had to block the hole now. Ning Shu's mind flashed with various thoughts. He walked to Li Si and asked, "What's going on?" "An army of thousands to deal with one person." "Interesting. They have turned the pool of rebirth into their family territory. They told me to scram." Li Si said, "Family territory? Was this something that these people could divide? You try to deal with them. Throw them all into the pool of rebirth." There was no need to be polite. They had already come to his door. Was he going to stay for a meal? Ning Shu took a step back and looked at Li Si. He wanted to see Li Si's current fighting strength. Even if he could not deal with the disaster beasts, he wanted to see how good he was at dealing with souls. Li Si nodded and rushed towards the group of people. The group over there was a bit of chaos. They started shouting. Ning Shu only looked and did not make a move. Li Si was like a wolf in a flock of sheep. His entire body flickered with golden light as he dealt with these souls with his bare hands. All the souls that were close to Li Si were touched by the golden light of karma on Li Si's body. It was as if they were scalded. They sizzled and emitted black smoke as they wailed in pain. Merit and virtue were very harmful to evil beings. This was also the reason why eminent monks or people who were blessed with merit and virtue were protected from evil beings. "You monster. So, we are here to negotiate." "Ah, my hand. It was a mess." Some souls were carried on Li Si's shoulder and thrown into the pool of rebirth. They flopped in the pool of rebirth for a few times. They were silent as if they were drowning. Clearly, the pool of rebirth thought that these souls were going to rebirth and began to purify them. This scene was really terrifying. Although they knew that they were going to rebirth, it was as if their souls were being devoured. Some souls saw Ning Shu standing beside the pool of rebirth. His soul was so weak, but he could still command the skeletons. To shoot a man, shoot the horse first. To capture the bandits, capture the leader first. See, this was the weakness of a weak soul. Everyone thought that she was easy to bully. The vines stretched out and wrapped around the souls that were running towards her. They were thrown into the pool of rebirth. Chapter 2862. These souls didn't want to reincarnate at all. What if they reincarnated as flowers, birds, fish, and insects? What would they do then? They would be muddle-headed for the rest of their lives. Seeing how ferocious Ning Shu was, these people did not dare to capture the leader to capture the bandits. They scampered off and began to flee. This was a total beating. Even those with weak souls were so strong. Ning Shu shouted, "This place is mine. I opened this place. If anyone dares to touch this place, I will send them into reincarnation. If the situation is serious, their souls will scatter. They won't even have the right to reincarnate." Ning Shu's voice echoed in every corner of the reincarnation world. It was like a thunderous roar. Some weak souls hugged their heads and squatted down, trembling. Those people who fled were all pulled back by Ning Shu's vines. They were thrown into the reincarnation pool like dumplings. These souls struggled to climb out of the reincarnation pool. However, it was like there were pairs of invisible hands pulling them. They couldn't climb out no matter what. They could only be buried in despair. Their memories were wiped. They didn't remember anything. They were muddle-headed and didn't know where to go. Some souls who tried to escape were so frightened that their legs trembled. They wished that their parents gave birth to them with 2 more legs so that they could run faster. Ning Shu left some people behind. These were just small fries. The truly strong souls hadn't appeared yet. He sent out some souls that were neither strong nor weak just to test their attitude. If they didn't dare to resist, then it was natural for them to take in the reincarnation pool. Li Si was able to deal with these souls easily. Moreover, the golden virtuous light on his body was very effective against souls. Not bad. In the future, if anyone comes and wants to take the reincarnation pool, just throw them in. Those who resist will have their souls scattered. It was really important to kill the chicken to warn the monkey. If you weren't strong enough, others would think that you were weak and easy to bully. Li Si nodded. Actually, these soul family clans are wantonly recruiting souls. They will even recruit souls that are slightly stronger. Those who reincarnate are actually the weaker souls. This was what Li Si observed. Very few souls with strong souls would jump in. After all, once one became strong, one would not be willing to give up. If young master had not been troubled by chi deviation, he would have chosen to reincarnate. Ning Shu agreed. Whether it was in the world of living beings or in the world of samsara, there were many cases of people forming cliques. This was something that couldn't be helped. Ning Shu wanted to scratch his head. It seemed that he had to find a way to increase the defense of the world of samsara. Otherwise, these people would have rebelled, and all of them wanted to keep the reincarnation pool in captivity. He was also quite courageous. The bigger the heart, the bigger the world. Of course, this had no effect on the rebirth pool. It only needed to purify the soul and extract a portion of the soul's energy. As for whether the soul was strong or weak, or whether a portion of it had been taken away, it had nothing to do with the rebirth pool. Pay more attention to the situation around you. I'll think of a way to get some power. Ning Shu also had a headache. Where was she going to get power? Could it be that he was looking for an abyssal prefect? Once, twice, thrice. Ning Shu felt a little embarrassed. Relying on others was not a long-term solution. Ning Shu rubbed his chin and stared at Li Si. Li Si was a native, a wild skeleton. He was not man-made. How did he succeed? Was it to seal a stubborn soul in the skeleton, allowing the soul and the skeleton to fuse together? Li Si was fuming from Ning Shu's stare. He touched his bald head and asked, "What's wrong?" Forget it, Li Si met by chance. If he used Li Si's method, he would lose a lot of souls. The success rate would be very low. Li Si did not even know how he became a skeleton. Ning Shu took out 2 merit grains and gave them to him. Cultivate well. Thank you, Grand Aunt. Li Si took the merit grain and chewed on it. That was the sound of his heart breaking. Ning Shu returned to the system space, thinking of exchanging for a puppet with force or a puppet that could help Li Si. At the thought of being poor, Ning Shu immediately found the main system and paid for 4 times. 400,000. That was a lot of money. The main system asked, "Have you completed 4 volunteer activities?" Ning Shu was speechless. Did he want to drag it out? Unscrupulous boss. Ning Shu said, "Done." He asked her to pick up the garbage with the excuse that she could get the reward if she picked it up again. Was it interesting to play dumb at this time? A Pichio that only went in and did not come out. The system notified that he had received 400,000 merit points. Ning Shu breathed a sigh of relief. At least he had some money. He opened the exchange store and looked for a puppet, a powerful tool that could not be corroded by the world of samsara. The puppet he found looked exactly like a human. Ning Shu liked a puppet that looked like a swordsman. The sword on its back could kill people and ghosts. He was very satisfied. The most important thing was that the puppet was handsome, which suited Ning Shu's taste. After being single for a long time, he would feel that a puppet was handsome. He was very satisfied with this puppet. It could kill enemies, analyze the battle situation and give orders. In addition to having no life, no emotions, no pain, and even calmer on the battlefield. But when he looked at the price, he broke out in a cold sweat. 2 million merit points. If it was in the past, he would have bought it with a wave of his hand. But now he had 500,000 merit points, less than a quarter. Ning Shu opened the customer service and asked if he could pay in installments. 2 million merit points were too much. Customer service: "Sorry, small business, no credit. If you want to bargain, please act coquettishly first." Ning Shu was speechless. Things that cost a few million at the drop of a hat, and it was a small business. She really liked this swordsman, but she had no money. Ning Shu opened the chat system. He wanted to borrow money and sell his blood. Now that his uncle was busy with the star stones, if he disturbed him, he would probably explode on the spot and ask him to scram. After thinking about it, he could only borrow money from the man in the Cheongsam. It was good to have a rich friend. right? He hadn't returned the 100,000 he borrowed last time. Ning Shu returned the 100,000 merit points and said to the man in the cheongsam, "Did you see the 100,000 merit points I returned?" The man in the cheongsam, "Yes, how did you get money so quickly?" Ning Shu rubbed his hands. "Actually, I wanted to ask you for help. Can you lend me 2 million? The man in the cheongsam, "Sorry, I'm offline. Please leave a message. I'll reply to you later." Ning Shu, "Don't be like this. I really need money. When I have money, I'll return it to you immediately." The man in the cheongsam, "Don't you think you're very thick-skinned? How can you ask for it?" Ning Shu, "I'm actually embarrassed. Who asked me to have such a rich friend like you? After all, we've been in the same trench. Comrades in arms, comrades in arms. What a noble friendship." He caught him scamming him and returned the money to borrow more money. Chapter 2863. The man in the cheongsam transferred 2 million merit points over. He said that there would be interest and that he could not borrow it for free. Ning Shu nodded in agreement. It was only right to pay interest. Ning Shu wrote an IOU. He had to write an IOU for such a large sum of money. This was an IOU that had been notarized by the system. He was in debt again. Every day he was in a state of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Ning Shu wanted to act coquettishly and bargain, but he was not good at acting coquettishly. He bought the puppet with 2 million merit points. The customer service said, "Dear, please check your receipt. The puppet has been sent." After a while, Ning Shu saw an ancient swordsman appear in the space system. As soon as he appeared, the entire system space was filled with a sharp sword intent. He stood there quietly, motionless, like a sword. His eyes looked real, but there was no emotion or spiritual energy in them. They surged with sharp sword intent. Although he was not a real person, his skin was like a real person. Ning Shu could not help but reach out to touch his face. The skin was warm, just like a human's. Damn, Uncle Chang's carpenter skills are so good, except for giving life. The puppet did not react to Ning Shu's touch, nor would it give any reaction. Listen to orders and kill the opponent. Ning Shu tapped on the black hole and said to the puppet, "Follow me." The puppet turned around and followed behind Ning Shu. It walked quite naturally, just like a human. Ning Shu brought the puppet to the side of the pool of rebirth and said to Li Si, "This is the person who will help you. If you have any orders, just give them directly. Don't beat around the bush. Don't think that the puppet can understand the meaning of thousands of words, especially when the language is profound." Li Si nodded. He glanced at the cold and expressionless puppet and asked, "What's his name?" He did not have any human feelings. It made one's heart tremble. He was cold and heartless. A name. Ning Shu thought for a moment and said, "Sword Lord. You will guard hell with him from now on." Ning Shu ordered Sword Lord. She didn't have a choice. This was the only thing she could make right now. As for how to make skeletons from His Excellency wouldn't tell her. If she asked too many questions, she would appear annoyed. She was not a thick-skinned person. "I also want to be a noble and elegant little fairy." "Yes." The sword sovereign's voice was very cold, like the sound of a stream hitting a jade, cold and indifferent. She was so cold and aloof. She was cold and aloof from her hair to her toes. She was even colder when she was not human. Ning Shu instructed Li Si not to let the sword sovereign come into contact with the calamity beast. He reckoned that the calamity beast would contaminate Li Si. Li Si felt that working with such a person was quite stressful. What should he talk about later to ease their relationship? After that, Li Si tried to find a topic to ease the atmosphere with the cool colleague, but the cool colleague ignored him and stood there motionless, as if he could stand there forever. He was not tired. He just stood there straight. Li Si felt tired just by looking at him. He accidentally touched his wrist and found that there was no pulse or heartbeat. Was this a dead person? Ning Shu couldn't help laughing. The puppet only accepted orders to fight and retreat. No matter how difficult it was, if there was no retreat, it would do everything possible to complete the task. It had no personal feelings. It was born to guard. Ning Shu didn't dare to stay in the world of samsara for too long. After all, the soul was so weak that it was easy to be contaminated. She went to take a look at the reincarnation pool. It had become bigger again. It was the size of 2 water tanks. She reckoned that it would evolve faster and faster. The next time she came, it might become a small pool. If there were no accidents, there was a 90% chance that the reincarnation pool would be successfully formed. After entering the 3rd layer of the 9 Palace Mountain, Ning Shu collected a few strands of pure Xinjiang silk thread. This time, he collected less than before. Ning Shu felt that it was normal. When people were faced with unsolvable problems and unexplainable things, they would believe in something mysterious and powerful. When humans could rely on themselves to survive, they would choose to believe in themselves. They wouldn't believe in unwarranted power. Now that the environment of this world had stabilized, the living beings of this world had adapted to such an environment. They could survive very well. This was especially so for the living beings with intelligence. They would question the gods that they once believed in. If there were any, he would keep it. If there weren't any, Ning Shu would just say that it was a pity. After all, they were extra. Ning Shu held the black bone umbrella and wandered around this world. Maybe he could find another world's origin. But obviously, this was a world that had just stabilized. It wasn't enough to produce an extra world's origin. Ning Shu left the 3rd layer. He wanted to go to the 5th layer to take a look. He wondered what kind of world the 5th layer was like. Squeezing into the 5th layer, Ning Shu felt like he had bumped into an iron plate. The impact was so great that his soul hurt. She couldn't enter the 5th layer. Was it because her soul was too weak, or because the 5th layer rejected her? All right, Ning Shu gave up very quickly. The key was that it was like bumping into a wall. It was very painful. She was afraid of pain. If she couldn't go in, she wouldn't go in. She could always go in. It was time to do the mission. The soul fluid on the 2nd layer had already been collected. There probably wasn't much left for the time being. She could only rely on missions to collect soul power. She had to be proactive when doing missions. If she wasn't proactive, her soul would always be so weak. Ning Shu returned to the system space and began to exchange for fasting pills, water, and medicine. She happily prepared to do missions. It had been a long time since she had been so proactive in doing missions. Ding dong. The chat system sounded. Ning Shu felt that it shouldn't be a good thing. She saw that the message was from Grand Uncle. Didn't he blacklist her all the time? Why did he send a message? Grand Uncle, did Jingqing go back? Damn, Jingqing still dared to come back? She wanted to eat 2,333 raw. 2333 wouldn't come back, right? Ning Shu replied coldly, he didn't come back. I don't know where he is. What did their business have to do with her? She didn't want to hear about it. It would ruin her mood. Please don't ruin other people's happiness, okay? Grand Uncle, please note that whether or not he is hiding in the mountain is the world in the mountain. Ning Shu was stunned. The world in the mountain. She didn't expect Jingqing to be hiding in the 9 Palace Mountain. Moreover, she wouldn't think in this direction. He stole her things and hid in her territory. This was something that only bullies could do. Could it be that Grand Uncle had been looking for Jingqing everywhere but to no avail, so he asked her? He had searched through hundreds of millions of planes so quickly. This speed was too fast. Even if he went around a world, it wouldn't be so fast. Ning Shu was conflicted. She was conflicted about whether Jingqing was really hiding in the 9 Palace Mountain. If it was true, then her previous plan to get rid of Jingqing was purely a fool's dream. Damn it. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that Jingqing might be hiding in the 9 Palace Mountain. It was too annoying. She didn't want to have anything to do with these 2 people in her life. As for those things, Ning Shu treated it as paying an IQ tax. Who asked her to be stupid? She didn't feel guilty at all when others bullied her. Chapter 2864. Ning Shu felt that she had nothing to do with the previous system. She finally managed to mentally prepare herself and think positively. However, she was told that the guy might be hiding in her world of reincarnation. Ning Shu felt an indescribable bitterness and anger in her heart. If he was really hiding in the 9 Palace Mountain, what if the 2 brothers fought and destroyed her world of reincarnation? When the gods fought, the little ones suffered. Ning Shu pulled her hair. Was he really hiding in the Nine Palace Mountain? Ning Shu looked at the chat system, her fingers trembling. She didn't know how to answer the other party. If he was here, what should she do? If she asked the grand uncle to come and catch him, would Zheng Qing obediently let him catch him? Definitely not. Something would always be destroyed in a fight. God damn it. Grand uncle, you need to enter the world of the mountain to check it out. Ning Shu. I refuse. The world of the mountain was obviously the Nine Palace Mountain. When he mentioned the world of the mountain, it lowered its style for no reason. It was very rustic. Perhaps to others, these worlds were no different from ravines. Ning Shu, I don't think he's hiding in this world. Definitely. Grand uncle, why are you so sure? Ning Shu, he's shameless. Hiding in the territory of a small ant. Grand uncle, the most dangerous place is the safest place. Oh, in the grand uncle's heart, Zheng Qing was a shameless person. Ning Shu's face was cold. What reason should she use to refuse the grand uncle's search of the Nine Palace Mountain? What if he found out? She felt so aggrieved. Even if Zheng Qing was really hiding in the Nine Palace Mountain, she still had to find a way to cover up for him. Because the most important thing in her heart was the world. Who knew what would happen if the two of them fought? She had just been born in the reincarnation pool. If it was destroyed like a basin of water being knocked over, who would she cry to? Could she grab the other party's collar and ask for compensation? Ning Shu racked her brains to think of a way to refuse. I think he should have gone to the billions of planes. Ning Shu, you're protecting him. She only wanted to protect her own world. She already had the heart to kill Zheng Qing, so how could she protect him? However, compared to the world, her current feelings were negligible. The most important thing was the world. She could definitely take revenge, but if the world was destroyed, it would be a loss and pain. Even if she took revenge, it would not be able to make up for it. Grand uncle, we need to search your world. Ning Shu, her pupils shrank as she saw the Grand Elder's figure gradually appear in the system space. He was dressed in black and stood there. He could come and go as he pleased. Her system space did not have any privacy at all. If she had known, she would have placed a few mouse traps. The grand uncle said, "Let's go to your world now. I can enter your world. I'll tell you in advance. I refuse to be searched. Is that okay?" "Of course not." "Then what the hell are you talking about? What difference does it make if you tell me or not? You can't refuse at all." Taishu's appearance in the system space, which wasn't very spacious, seemed a little cramped, especially since the system space was stuffed full of things. There was a big fish pond, bookshelves, sofas, coffee tables, beds, and all kinds of potted plants. It was so crowded that there was no place to stand. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the sofa and asked, "If you find Zheng Qing in the Nine Palace Mountain, what are you going to do?" The grand uncle looked at her as if she was an idiot. "What are you going to do if you don't catch him?" Ning Shu looked at him as if she was looking at a fool. "I mean, if you find him and you guys fight, what will happen to my world? My world is broken. Can you take responsibility if anything happens?" Perhaps her world looked as fragile as a toy, but it was still her world. The grand uncle said expressionlessly, "It won't affect your world. Besides, he might not be hiding in your world." Ning Shu smiled. "You said you can take responsibility. If something really happens and I look for you, won't you kill me? If I want to kill you, I'll kill you. What's the use of looking for you?" The grand uncle frowned. "Why are you so troublesome?" Ning Shu immediately covered her heart and said exaggeratedly, "The world is my son. If you guys fight in my world, what if you hurt the world? What should I do?" Ning Shu covered her heart with one hand and hammered the sofa with the other. "Can you understand a mother's feelings?" The grand uncle's face became colder. "I don't understand. I'm just informing you not to talk about a mother's feelings." Ning Shu opened the black hole and said, "If Zheng Qing is really in the Nine Palace Mountain world, I didn't put him there. When he left, he took all my things and caught Zheng Qing. Can you return those things to me? Also, when you guys fight, you must take care of my son. My world is very fragile. You must cherish it." You must remember that I'm innocent. My soul power was absorbed. My soul power is so weak now. It was absorbed by him. Can you return it to me? The grand uncle said, Can you shut up? The grand uncle walked into the black hole and turned around. You don't have to go. It's useless even if you go. No, I want to go. Why couldn't she go and see what was going on in her world? No matter what, she had to set up a barrier to protect the rebirth pool. The grand uncle disappeared in a flash. When Ning Shu reached the world of reincarnation, he couldn't see him anymore. He probably went to search the world. She didn't know what kind of connection the two had. She heard that twins had telepathy. Could these two have telepathy too? Ning Shu saw that the rebirth pool had expanded again and quickly set up a barrier. This time, it was a barrier set up with the law of Earth. The law of Earth was very stable and kept increasing in thickness. She set up barriers on both rebirth pools. Whether or not she would find Jingqing in the Nine Palace Mountain, it was better to be prepared. Once people like her started fighting, it was possible to destroy a plane. Her world of reincarnation was like a bubble. It wasn't stable at all. Because of the barrier, some souls that wanted to reincarnate were directly bounced back by the barrier. They couldn't reincarnate for the time being. Ning Shu couldn't enter the world above the 5th level. He could only stand beside the rebirth pool and look at the towering Nine Palace Mountain, waiting for the result. Like an ant on a hot pan, Ning Shu walked back and forth around the rebirth pool. When the grand uncle appeared, he hurriedly rushed over and asked, Did you find her? No, it seems she really went to a plane. The grand uncle shook his head and said, However, he set up a barrier. As long as he was here, he would be able to detect it. Ning Shu covered his heart and sighed. This should be the last time he had anything to do with Jingqing. Fortunately, they weren't in this world. However, according to the grand uncle's search speed, there were a total of 9 worlds in the Nine Palace Mountain. He was quickly caught. There were billions of planes. The chances of being caught were much lower. After a while, he would jump to another plane. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2865. This kind of hide-and-seek could allow Jingqing to have fun for a long time. Especially with so many planes, the probability of finding Jingqing was 1 in a billion. Such a small probability was even lower than finding a needle in a haystack. Senior uncle said, Pay more attention to your own world. He may come back. Inform the organization immediately. Ning Shu's heart, which had just been relieved, rose again. What did he mean by coming back? 2333. How could he give up the big world outside and come to such a small fish pond? What if Jingqing used this place as a base and even ran here to hide? Ning Shu suddenly realized that the reason why Jingqing didn't kill her, besides the possibility that he might come back in the future, was probably because the world treated her as a base. Eggs shouldn't be placed in one basket. Keeping her was more valuable than killing her. Was Jingqing sure that she would still be so weak and easy to bully when he came back? Be careful that she might turn into a big tiger. But now that he wasn't here, Ning Shu breathed a sigh of relief. Senior uncle disappeared. Ning Shu sat on the soft black sand without a care for her image. She hammered her chest, feeling quite depressed. Damn it, if Jingqing wanted to leave, then leave. Why did she feel that Jingqing would definitely come back dejectedly? Or he would be chased into a corner, come back to exploit her, and then run away. Ning Shu felt like she was bleeding from her own imagination. She felt like she was a milk cow. Fortunately, the world wasn't hurt. Fortunately, Jingqing wasn't here. A person she had never met and didn't know what he looked like had caused her to be like this. It was possible that the enemy didn't know each other. What a trap. She was no longer in the mood to do missions. She might as well comprehend the space laws and calm her frightened heart. What did she owe Jingqing? Or was she a donkey that Jingqing had marked? Was she going to be his slave for the rest of her life? She thought that after leaving, her life would open up and she would run all the way. But in the end, she found that this guy was a huge rock in front of her. She kicked him away, but there was still more. Who knew that this rock would roll down from the top of the mountain and smash her to death? What a trap. Ning Shu returned to the system space. The backup system asked, would the host like to do a mission now? Ning Shu rubbed his head and scratched his hair until it looked like a chicken coop. Wait a little longer. I want to be alone. Ding dong, the chatting system rang. Ning Shu tapped it a few times and opened the chatting system. It was a message from the Cheongsam man. The Cheongsam man said, I need your help. There's a team mission. Do you want to join us? Ning Shu remembered that the Cheongsam man had helped him a lot, borrowing money and putting in effort. He replied, sure, what's the mission? The man in the Cheongsam said, come to the city of time and I'll tell you the details. Then, you can decide whether to go or not. Ning Shu said okay and put away the fasting elixir and water. Since the Cheongsam man had asked for help, she had no choice but to help. After all, friendship needed time to maintain. When Ning Shu arrived at the Time City's restaurant, there were a lot of guests in the restaurant. The waiter welcomed him and said to Ning Shu, is it the Water City Lord? The boss is waiting for you upstairs. Ning Shu was led to a private room by the waiter. Other than the Cheongsam man, there were 7 mission takers in the room. There were men and women. They should be the team members this time. Ning Shu stood at the door. Everyone in the room cast their gazes on Ning Shu. Ning Shu's soul was already very thin. Come in. The Cheongsam man waved his folding fan and said with a smile. Ning Shu stepped over the threshold and walked into the room. The waiter considerately closed the door. Zhu Li, is this person also a team member this time? Her soul is a little weak. I'm afraid she's not suitable for a team. Besides, this trip is very dangerous. Other than those who spoke, the others who didn't speak showed disapproval in their eyes. This woman's soul was really too weak. Even an ordinary wind could blow it away. Ning Shu wasn't angry. He sat down, picked up his teacup, and took a sip of tea. No matter where it was, one had to respect Luo Chang first before respecting people, especially when the soul was related to a person's strength. Ning Shu was quite curious about why the Cheongsam man had teamed up this time. In addition to team missions, it could also be a private mission. They would spend some money to hire other mission takers to team up. Other than working for the organization, mission takers could actually do private things as long as they didn't cross the bottom line of the organization and cause any trouble that couldn't be cleaned up. Usually, if they caused trouble, everyone would be unlucky. Judging from the Cheongsam man's posture, he might be gathering people to do private work. The Cheongsam man waved his folding fan and said, there's a problem with her soul for the time being, but she has 3 law incarnations. She's not weak. 3 law incarnations. The people in the room stared at Ning Shu. Could this be the person who had robbed the law in the city some time ago? It was quite strange that he hadn't died. Ning Shu drank the refreshing tea. Without money, he could only drink like this. He asked, what kind of mission is this? As long as you're not afraid that I'll drag you down, I'll think about it and agree. The Cheongsam man closed his fan and said to Ning Shu, in the void, I heard that a world tree was born. My goal is this world tree. Ning Shu gulped down his tea and looked at the Cheongsam man. Where does the world tree grow? Ning Shu was confused. The Cheongsam man's eyes bulged, indicating that he was quite helpless. He explained, in addition to the world of living beings and the world of reincarnation, there's another kind of world. Ning Shu straightened his back and sat obediently to listen to the Cheongsam man speak. He really didn't know that there was a third kind of world. Could it be the world of yin and yang? The void world is located between the world of living beings and the world of reincarnation. It's a plane without stable rules. It's very chaotic inside. Let's put it this way. It's a naturally formed space, but it's not stable. However, it also absorbs rules. However, these rules aren't used to stabilize the space. Instead, they form all kinds of rules items, such as the world tree and some items that can build worlds. Ning Shu blinked. So you're saying that there's a treasure trove inside? Not necessarily. Some are very dangerous. There's even nothing inside. It might be a sea of fire or a vast ocean. Whether there are treasures or not depends on luck. Ning Shu wanted to punch her thigh. Fuck, there was actually such a place. Why did she only know about it now? The Cheongsam man probably paid a price to get information about the World Tree. The purpose of this team was to go to the Void World to get the World Tree. Ning Shu was a little envious. It was good to have a wide range of information. She also wanted to get a World Tree, but the Cheongsam man had already started looking for it. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2866. It seemed that the man in the Cheongsam was not trying to build a world, but he wanted to choose a good one. It was similar to what she thought. He did not want to find a random world carrier to build. Ning Shu knew that this time, she was going to accompany the prince to study and help him take down the Tree of World. Besides, Ning Shu also wanted to see the world in the void. If she helped him take down the Tree of World, she might have to ask the man in the Cheongsam for help next time. Ning Shu understood and began to think about the danger this time. She asked, "Does anyone else know about this except us?" If more people knew about it, in addition to the danger of the void, there would be competition among the task takers. The Tree of World was a good thing. The man in the Cheongsam took a sip of tea and said, "I can't guarantee that the news I got is exclusive, so I don't know how many people know about it. If you are willing to go with me, each of you will be rewarded with 10 million merit points. In addition, I will owe each of you a favor. As long as it is not something excessive or against the organization, I will help." Gulp. Ning Shu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. 10 million. If she really succeeded, she wouldn't be so poor. 10 million for each person. There were 7 people here, so it would be 70 million merit points. The man in the Cheongsam was indeed a hidden rich man. Although she was a bit timid in flirting, she was a rich bachelor. When she was not plundered by the official, she only had 20 million merit points in total. Since he could give 70 million as a reward, it meant that 70 million was nothing to the man in the Cheongsam. Ning Shu bit her handkerchief and felt inexplicably sad. There was silence in the box. Obviously, these task takers were all thinking about the gains and losses, and whether there were additional dangers. In particular, whether this news was exclusive or not, it meant that in addition to fighting against the harsh environment of the void, they also had to fight against competitors. If they were not careful, they might die in the void. If the void was annihilated, they would really have nothing left. Ning Shu definitely had to go. If she really encountered danger that she could not resist, she would directly hide in her own world of samsara. Besides, she really wanted to see this kind of place. She was really lacking in knowledge. There was actually such a place in the world, a place where one could find treasure. Why did she only know about it now? If he had known about it in the past, he might have gone to these places many times. Time ticked by, but no one said a word. Ning Shu blinked his eyes at the Cheongsam man, indicating that he agreed to go. The Cheongsam man narrowed his eyes and looked at the others. "I'm very grateful that you guys agreed to go. If you don't agree, we're still friends. After all, going to the void space is very dangerous." "I'll go." A woman took the lead and said, "Who asked you to make me your girlfriend every day? I can't waste your good intentions." Ning Shu rolled his eyes at the Cheongsam man. How many girls had he flirted with? The Cheongsam man coughed twice and lowered his head to drink his tea. During this period of time, 2 people withdrew. They had measured their own strength. Moreover, there were still people in the team who were dragging them down. Their souls were so weak. The man in the Cheongsam was not angry. He asked the waiter to serve them good wine and dishes, and told them to leave after they finished eating. The 2 of them were a little embarrassed. They directly said that they didn't want to eat and left. Including the Cheongsam man, there were 6 people left. Ning Shu asked, "Is it enough?" After 2 people left, there shouldn't be enough people. "It's enough. We've already calculated that we'll withdraw. Zuli thanks everyone here." "You're welcome." Ning Shu was a novice. As for how to go to the void space, he was completely clueless. He asked, "How do we get there?" If they wanted to build a space tunnel, it meant that they were powerless. "We'll buy a space tunnel rune array in advance. We can go to that world," the Cheongsam man said. Ning Shu felt that the mission enforcers had a lot of tricks up their sleeves. He was like a frog at the bottom of a well. In the end, he didn't have as much experience and knowledge as others. She had to be a knowledgeable little fairy. Ning Shu asked, "Do we need to bring some tools?" "It was better to be prepared." Ning Shu whispered again, "Since it's the world tree, you can't uproot it with your hands. There should be tools. Don't forget to bring them." The Cheongsam man smiled slightly. "I remember. Don't worry." "Then do I need to prepare anything?" "It was always good to be prepared. Just bring your personal weapons with you. If you bring too many other things, they might become a burden." Ning Shu nodded. In that case, she could only go alone because she didn't have any personal weapons. She had to find a personal weapon slowly. It was better to go without than to have something substandard. Since it was a personal weapon, she had to find the best one that was most suitable for her. The Cheongsam man said, "There's no time to lose. Everyone, stand over here and find a way to increase our chances of success." Ning Shu stood next to the Cheongsam man. A space tunnel appeared in front of them. The Cheongsam man took the lead and walked in. Ning Shu quickly followed. The other four hesitated for a moment before following suit. Ning Shu touched the space tunnel. The construction was quite sturdy. Ning Shu asked the Cheongsam man, "Did you build this?" "I'm really ashamed. The space law I've comprehended is not enough to build such a long distance." The Cheongsam man sighed. Seeing the Cheongsam man gnashing his teeth, Ning Shu felt better. It seemed like someone else was like him, making slow progress in comprehending the space law. Time and space are high-level laws. Since you've comprehended the time law, it shouldn't be difficult for you to comprehend space. Space and laws are inseparable. Sigh. The Cheongsam man sighed and refused to talk about this topic. As the six of them walked, the space tunnel suddenly shook. Someone exclaimed, "What's wrong with the space tunnel?" Ning Shu's heart sank. A stable spatial passageway would not shake unless the spatial passageway was about to collapse. This was terrible. If it collapsed, who knew if they would be sucked into such a spatial storm and be strangled? They might even appear in an unknown or distorted space. They would never be able to come out again. Some spaces were so strange that they could not be broken out with ordinary strength. If one was stuck on water, they would not be able to break free without sufficient strength. Those strange spaces were like swamps. It was difficult to get out of them. The space shook even more violently. The Cheongsam man's expression turned ugly. Something must have gone wrong when the space tunnel was being stored. That's why it's like this. Ning Shu released his mental strength and found that the space tunnel was about to break not far ahead. He felt like he was at a disadvantage. Ning Shu said to the Cheongsam man, "The space tunnel in front is about to collapse. We have to hurry up and repair it. At least we have to hold on until the void." Ning Shu quickly found the space node and built the tunnel. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2867. In fact, this wasn't considered building a passageway. It was the effect of patching up the spatial passageway. "Everyone help," Ning Shu said to everyone. Spatial laws weren't easy to comprehend. Other than Ning Shu, who knew a little, only the Cheongsam man could build a passageway. The two worked together to patch up the hole. An unknown gust of strong wind blew into the tunnel from the outside, freezing people's souls and bones. Just like the underwater tunnel, once there was a problem with the tunnel, water would rush in through the cracks due to the pressure. It was the same principle now. Ning Shu's soul was weak, so the wind was especially uncomfortable. She had to focus on building the passageway and couldn't be distracted. Ning Shu felt that she should make an item to protect her soul. Otherwise, the wind would really blow her away. The sound of the wind gradually weakened. The places that were about to break were finally connected again. The Cheongsam man heaved a sigh of relief. "Everyone speed up. We don't know when that place will collapse again," said the Cheongsam man. Therefore, everyone sped up. They knew that the spatial passageway would collapse sooner or later. The effect of the patching was to put an OK on the crack. It wouldn't last long. The six of them ran out of the passageway with all their might and plunged into the desert. A heat wave hit them in the face. The temperature was conservatively estimated to be 60 degrees. It was very hot. Their souls melted like butter. Ning Shu immediately opened the black bone umbrella to block the sun. Her soul was the weakest, so she felt uncomfortable facing such strong yang energy. Furthermore, there was an endless desert. There was no end in sight. After falling into the desert, even a soul would feel an indescribable fear when looking at the boundless yellow sand. As a human's fear, some fears were imprinted in the soul. For example, when Ning Shu saw the desert, the first thing that came to her mind was that she had prepared fasting pills and water. The yellow sand was very soft. She sank into her ankles after taking a step. Fortunately, she was a soul and not a body. It wasn't that heavy. Ning Shu asked the Chongsam man, "Do you have a specific map?" Without a map, he would never be able to find the world tree if he went in the wrong direction. The Chongsam man opened his folding fan to shield himself from the sun and took out a map from his pocket. Ning Shu leaned over to take a look. After looking at it for a while, she still couldn't understand why the map was drawn so abstractly. It made her, who wasn't interested in spatial geography, feel quite desperate. "We landed in the desert of death, which is the furthest from the world tree. We have to walk out of this desert on foot." The Chongsam man frowned. First, the spatial tunnel shook, and then they landed so far away. Perhaps by the time they reached the world tree, someone else would have already reached it. The female mission enforcer was probably irritated by the heat. No matter how strong her soul was, it was still Yin in nature. She especially disliked this kind of environment. His voice was a little sharp as he asked, "Why can't I use my laws to walk out of the desert? This is a place where evolution fails. The power of laws cannot be used here. You can try and see if you can fly." The Chongsam man explained patiently. Ning Shu had already tried. The evolution of the laws here was not complete. It was possible that only 1 or 2 laws had been absorbed. It couldn't be considered a normal world at all. In a world without even a heavenly Tao, it was possible to create all kinds of strange things. They could be good things or bad things. This place couldn't be explained by science. Perhaps as they walked, this place would become the sea. How could they be so capricious? The Chongsam man took back the map and said, "Let's go southeast." Since they were already here, of course they had to find the world tree. Ning Shu was quite curious about this kind of world. He didn't feel irritated, but it was hot. The sand burned his feet. Ning Shu was barefooted. He didn't dare to stay on the sand for too long. Otherwise, his soul would be scalded. It wasn't the heat, but the residual yang qi on the sand. The heat distorted their figures. Ning Shu took out some water and poured it on the black bone umbrella. Seeing that Ning Shu had water, they all wanted to drink it. However, they were all souls. They didn't feel thirsty or hungry, but they instinctively wanted to be cool. However, they also knew that drinking water might pollute their souls. They might as well not drink it. The sun was always high up in the sky. It seemed like it would never set. Were they going to be under the sun forever? Then crossing the desert would be much more uncomfortable. At least it was cooler at night. Their forces wouldn't be affected. Other than some animal carcasses, there were no other creatures in the yellow sand. Although it wasn't easy for the soul to feel tired, having to work day and night, having the strength to take one step at a time, made one feel especially impatient. Ning Shu asked the Chongsam man some questions. The Chongsam man also noticed that the team's morale was low, so he said some interesting things to divert their attention. Thus, Ning Shu learned a lot about this kind of space. In the end, it was not suitable for living. However, because of the incomplete laws and rules, it gave birth to treasures that were hard to find in living worlds. For example, the world tree, some world carriers, and the world's origin. This was a treasure trove that mission takers knew about. The premise was that you could find these empty spaces. These empty spaces were not as easy to locate as planes. If you found a treasure, it would be yours. Ning Shu was excited. If this was really the case, he could come here more often to relieve his poverty. After walking for a long time, the sky finally darkened. The sky was finally dark. The heat of the day gradually subsided. Not long after, it was freezing cold. Stepping on the sand was as cold as stepping on a blade of ice. Ning Shu's black bone umbrella was so cold that she couldn't help but shiver. Everyone. In such extreme weather, It would be a miracle for any living being to survive. The 6 of them had no choice but to continue forward. It was so cold. Were they going to keep jumping around to keep warm? A depressing atmosphere pervaded the team. The first burst of energy, the second weakened, and the third exhausted. The space trembled and they fell into the desert of death. Walking through the desert, they were still so stubborn in the desert. The Cheongsam man couldn't help but sigh. Ning Shu whispered to the Cheongsam man, "The world tree is a peerless treasure. It's okay to suffer a little. How can it be a peerless treasure if it's easy to get?" Ever since his belongings were taken away, his soul power was absorbed, and he was even treated like a hen. Ning Shu now understood the spirit of AQ. He had to learn to comfort himself in everything. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to survive. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2868. The 6 of them walked step by step toward the edge of the desert. It was hot during the day and freezing at night. When it was hot during the day, they felt that the cold at night was cool. When it was cold at night, they felt that the heat during the day was actually quite comfortable, especially since the days and nights were very long, and the days were very long. After walking for a few days, they still hadn't walked out of the desert. Even Ning Shu was a little annoyed. At a glance, there was nothing but yellow sand. Occasionally, there would be a mirage, but this kind of mirage wasn't very attractive to mission enforcers in soul form. Although there was an oasis and cool water, they didn't care. They had to hurry out of the desert and find the world tree as soon as possible to prevent it from being taken by others. Every day that they wasted, their chances of obtaining the world tree decreased by a fraction. Because no one knew how many people knew about the world tree. The man in the Cheongsam was probably here to try his luck. Ning Shu was here to accompany the prince. He was very calm. If there wasn't the world tree, there could be other treasures. However, the atmosphere in the team was very bad. It was mainly annoyance. Fortunately, they were mission enforcers. If they were ordinary people, their physical and psychological problems would be enough to make them collapse. As Ning Shu walked, he used his mental power to scan the surroundings. There might be some hidden danger under the yellow sand. They hadn't encountered any danger in the past few days, but some unknown corpses were buried under the yellow sand. This meant that this desert was still very dangerous. Otherwise, why would it be called the Desert of Death? In particular, there would be sandstorms and tornadoes in the desert. If they weren't careful, they would be lost. They were quite lucky because they didn't encounter any sandstorms along the way. His mental power spread forward. Ning Shu saw a person lying on the yellow sand. His body was almost covered by the yellow sand. His body was faintly discernible in the yellow sand. Do you see it? There's someone in front. The team had stopped. Obviously, everyone had noticed the person lying in front. In the middle of the desert, there was actually a person lying there. Ning Shu used his mental power to scan the person and found that his heart was still beating. Although it was beating very slowly, it was still beating. It meant that he was still alive. The high viscosity of the blood meant that he had been dehydrated for a long time. He was the only one around. Could it be that he didn't have any companions? Everyone felt that it was strange to see such a half-dead person lying in the middle of the desert. Ning Shu didn't say anything. Anyway, the leader of this team was the Cheongsam man. If the Cheongsam man wanted to save people, they wouldn't object. If he didn't save them, it would be normal. The Cheongsam man said to Ning Shu, "You have water on you, right? Go and give him some." Ning Shu nodded, took the water bottle and ran over. He was exhausted. The spiritual force scan was very fast, and the distance he ran was very far. A group of people stood next to this person, sizing him up. They pulled him out of the yellow sand. He was wearing beast skins, and there were beast teeth of different sizes strung together around his neck. His skin was dark, and it was hard to tell how old he was. However, looking at his body, he should be in the prime of his life. Ning Shu opened his mouth and slowly poured some water in. Perhaps it was because he felt the moisture of the water, he instinctively licked his lips and wanted to drink more. Ning Shu poured some more water and stuffed a fasting pill into his mouth. The fasting pill melted as soon as it entered his mouth. There was no difficulty in swallowing it. Anyway, he wouldn't die. His body's vitality was slowly recovering. The Cheongsam man looked at the sky. It was going to be dark soon. After dark, the temperature of the ground would be unbearable for ordinary people. Why was this person unconscious in the desert? He didn't die of heat, dehydration, or freeze to death. His body was really strong. The Cheongsam man said, "Drag him away. We can't stay." Ning Shu immediately said, "My soul is so weak that I can't drag him at all. You do it." The Cheongsam man sighed and dragged the man's ankle. Anyway, the desert was full of sand. He wouldn't get hurt if he dragged him away. However, he was only wearing beast skins. With one of his legs being dragged, it was inevitable that he would be exposed. What was a man? When it was dark, the man woke up and opened his eyes, revealing a pair of blue and pure eyes. He looked at the people around him blankly. He struggled to break free from the Cheongsam man's control and shouted for a few miles. However, the Cheongsam man was very strong. The man couldn't escape. In the end, he started crying. A burly man was crying bitterly as if he had been bullied. The Cheongsam man said, "I suspect that he is an aboriginal. It's a good thing to meet him. Maybe we can get something extra." However, he was obviously afraid of him. A man was shivering in fear. They looked very fierce. "Are there aboriginal people in this place?" Ning Shu asked in surprise. Generally speaking, the environment in these void spaces was quite extreme and harsh. There were not many living creatures that could survive because the unstable environment couldn't allow living creatures to survive and develop. For example, when a house was built, there would be an earthquake and the house would collapse. It was not suitable for development. Even if there were living creatures and humans, they would be in a rather barbaric state. They couldn't develop. Ning Shu thought that he had the ability to communicate with intelligent creatures, so he communicated with him with his consciousness and listened to what he was thinking. "Who are they? They are so scary. Are they demons? Are they going to catch me and eat me?" It seemed that he was more afraid of them than he had imagined. That would be easy. He would answer whatever he asked. Ning Shu asked, "Who are you? Why are you in the desert? Answer me honestly, or I will eat you." The man in animal skin was a little confused. He didn't understand why a person's voice suddenly appeared in his mind, but he unexpectedly understood. "I am Fong. I am looking for something. I was dragged here. Let me go. I will give you something." Ning Shu snorted. "What is it?" Since he was an aboriginal, he must be very familiar with this world. "Do you know that there is a kind of tree? A leaf is a world." "What is that?" The man was very confused, especially when he was being dragged. He couldn't think. It seemed that these aboriginal people didn't know about the world tree. However, even if they didn't know the importance of the world tree to the mission. They didn't even know that a leaf was a world. Ning Shu asked, "Then what good things do you have? Can you let me go? If you let me go, I will take you to find something good. I promise I won't run away," the man shouted. Chapter 2869. "I don't believe you," Ning Shu said directly. "Unless you show me something good, I'll kill you." Fong was instinctively afraid of people and things he had never seen before. In his heart, they were demons who wanted to catch him and eat him. The man had no choice but to take off something sewn with animal skin from his waist. He took out a bright crystal and held it in his hand as he spoke. Ning Shu looked at the crystal. It was bright and dark blue. It was very beautiful, like an irregular sapphire. Ning Shu scanned it with his mental power and found that the crystal contained mental power. Obviously, other than Ning Shu, the others also found it. The man in the Cheongsam let go of the man's foot. The 6 people surrounded him, making the man shrink into a ball. "This thing contains mental power. It's good stuff," the woman said quickly. Her eyes lit up as she looked at the crystal. She took the lead and snatched the crystal from his hand. "It's really mental power?" Ning Shu asked. "How much of this do you have? What do you use it for?" The man said in fear, "Looking for prey. Looking for prey hiding on the ground, in the sky, and in the grass." We'll use this thing to check out some dangerous places first. Was this a disguised use of mental power? These aboriginals were quite smart. Ning Shu felt that his mental power was weak. If he had these crystals, his mental power might be able to reach a higher level. Ning Shu asked again, "How do you use this stone?" The man said honestly, "Through this kind of crystal, you can see very far, very clearly." Ning Shu rubbed his chin and thought. Could it be that he had absorbed the mental power in it? Where did these things come from? Ning Shu asked quickly. It would be even better if there were mineral deposits. He could collect some and go back. After dealing with the problem of the world tree, he could go mining. There are such things in the Sum River. We found them in the river ourselves. In the river? How could it be in the river? Ning Shu thought there were mineral deposits. The river would only take this kind of spirit stone away, but there must be a source. Just like the jade in the high mountains and flowing water, it was the water that passed through the jade mine. Under the washing of the river and the stones, the jade became more transparent and round. Then how did these things end up in the Sumu River? Where is the source of the Sumu River? Ning Shu was very excited. He might be able to find a crystal mine. The man shook his head, indicating that he did not know. The Sum River is very, very long. No one knows where the source of the Sum River is. It's too dangerous here, so no one will look for the source of the Sum River. These people could not go, but maybe they could. Ning Shu asked them what they were doing in the desert. Speaking of which, this man was quite unlucky. It was said that a group of people from his tribe went to the desert to look for a kind of fruit. This kind of fruit grew in a desolate desert filled with yellow sand. In the end, he was separated from his companions because of the storm and then met them. She was being held hostage by the demon. Ning Shu asked what he wanted to know, and then told the other mission enforcers about it. They were now a team, and he couldn't handle it alone. If everyone worked together, they might be able to gain something. Upon hearing that there was such a thing, everyone became excited. Mental strength was the hardest thing to improve. Now, there was actually such a thing that could improve mental strength. It was natural. This was really good news. Even if they did not use it, they could sell it for a huge sum of money. In short, everyone went from dispirited to energetic. The man in the Cheongsam frowned. He did not care that much about the spiritual stone. He cared about the world tree. Were these people going to go and dig for crystals? Ning Shu said, "This kind of thing is not easy to find. Let's help Zhu Li find the world tree first, and then we'll look for this stone." Yes, that's what we should do. Let's find the world tree first. Of course, it did not matter if Ning Shu said this from his standpoint. If it was the man in the Cheongsam who said it would be a little awkward. It made both sides uncomfortable. Then bring him along, the man in the Cheongsam said. When we find the world tree, let him lead the way to the Sumu River. Since they were going to find the world tree first, he was willing to do a good deed. Especially now that there was the stimulation of the spiritual stone, everyone wanted to find the world tree quickly. Then they could get busy with other things. The man was at a loss. He listened to these people talk in a language that he did not understand. As they talked, they glanced at him. It made him feel disgusted. Were they discussing how to eat him? He felt very sad. He had not found the fruit, and he had been removed from the list. He could not become the strongest person in the tribe and could not become the tribe leader. Now, he had encountered a group of demons who were staring at him with covetous and burning eyes. He could not bear it at all. But it seemed that he could not beat them. He was so scared. Everyone discussed and quickened their pace to find the world tree. It took them a few days to walk out of the desert. This man's lips curled up because of the heat during the day. At night, he was so cold that his nose was running and he kept sneezing, but he persevered. This made the mission enforcers look at the natives in a new light. It was quite impressive to be able to adapt to such an extreme environment. Ning Shu held the dark blue crystal and played with it. He thought about how to take the spiritual power in it for himself. In order to be able to take in more spiritual power, Ning Shu also focused on expanding his sea of consciousness. The bigger his sea of consciousness, the more spiritual power it could take in. Ning Shu asked the man in animal skin, "How do you use this crystal?" The man said, You have to concentrate and become one with the God's stone. That way, you can use the God's stone quickly. Ning Shu nodded and tried. He felt as if he was floating on the sea. When he opened his eyes again, the spiritual stone in his hand had turned into powder. Could it be that the spiritual power had been absorbed by her? Ning Shu entered his sea of consciousness and saw that his spiritual power was indeed a little stronger. This was really good stuff. His current spiritual power was not enough. It was great to have such a crystal that contains spiritual power. He hoped to find some crystals. After all, he might not be able to come to this place next time. Maybe the already unstable void space would be annihilated. He would get as much as he could. He just did not know if there were any side effects. He would not use it for now. He would take it back and appraise it. What if there were impurities? It would not be good for his spiritual power. The others watched the crystal turn into powder with shining eyes. The stronger they were, the more they knew the importance of spiritual power. Spiritual power was the left and right arm. They could live without eyes, but they could not live without spiritual power. Chapter 2870. Walking out of the desert, everyone headed towards the place marked on the map. They were getting closer and closer to the World Tree. Everyone was trying to suppress their excitement. They were going to find the World Tree. They wondered how the World Tree was doing. Was it still there? During this time, the man in animal skin tried to escape a few times, but he was caught. Every time he tried to escape, the result was the same. The man seemed to have learned his lesson. He stopped running, but sometimes he would cry secretly. A man like him would cry bitterly. However, no one comforted him. They just let him cry helplessly. The man in Cheongsam didn't care about a person's mood. All his emotions were focused on the World Tree. After passing through the forest, they arrived at the World Tree. Looking at the grassland, everyone was confused. Where was the World Tree? The five of them stared at the man in Cheongsam. Is this the wrong address? There's no World Tree here. Impossible. The man in Cheongsam looked at the map over and over again. There's no mistake. This is the place. Ning Shu looked around. There was no one. There were no mission enforcers. Could it be that the World Tree had been taken away by someone? Was it taken away by someone else? The World Tree was a treasure. However, there wasn't any glow around it. There was only a grassland. It was so green that it attracted wild horses. Obviously, the few of them felt that they had come to the wrong place. Otherwise, why wasn't there a World Tree? It was a grassland with no trees. Ning Shu felt that they might have come to the wrong place. It must be here, the man in Cheongsam said with certainty. What about the World Tree? There are no signs of it being excavated. It can't be taken away by someone else, his companion couldn't help but say. Were they supposed to look for the World Tree in the grassland one by one? Did the person who gave you the information tell you the state of the World Tree? Ning Shu asked. If the man in Cheongsam had been fooled, it would be a huge blow to his pride. The man in Cheongsam didn't look too good. Obviously, that was all he knew. He came after giving them a simple map. Although there were spirit stones, the World Tree was what the man in Cheongsam wanted the most. He was willing to give up the spirit stones for the World Tree. Caw-caw. A flock of birds was startled in the forest. Then, the ground shook, startling even more birds in the forest. Something's happening over there. Is the World Tree over there? Ning Shu hurriedly said to the depressed Cheongsam man. The Cheongsam man nodded. No matter what the situation was over there, he had to go and take a look. The six of them dragged Ya, a man in animal skin with a face full of despair, to the scene of the accident. Then he saw several groups of mission enforcers confronting each other. At the same time, there was a sapling growing over there. The two leaves of the sapling were shining brightly. The World Tree. This was the first time Ning Shu had seen the World Tree in its sapling form. The sapling of the World Tree was really cute. The Cheongsam man looked a lot more excited, but when he saw several groups of mission takers, he suppressed his excitement and whispered to the five of them, "It's the World Tree." Although they had found the World Tree, the problem was that the chances of successfully obtaining the World Tree and escaping with so many people present were not high. Ning Shu looked at the cute World Tree and asked, You know how to move the world tree, right? We'll stop them for you later. You go and dig it up. I know that. I brought enough equipment. The Cheongsam man's eyes could not move away from the world tree. Ning Shu was a little puzzled. It's so small. How should we manage and feed it? A small sapling growing into a towering tree would definitely need to absorb nutrients. The Cheongsam man did not say much. I'll think of a way. The most important thing now is to take the world tree. The world tree was really beautiful and attracted many people's attention. The most exciting thing was the world tree's powerful strength. One leaf, one world. Another team appeared to snatch the world tree. They looked at the few of them with hostility and scrutiny. It was as if they were measuring the strength of this new team. Ning Shu sighed. This was the situation he did not want to see the most. The person who sold the information was too immoral. One piece of information was sold several times. However, exclusive information was definitely expensive. In short, paying less would cause more trouble. The world tree swayed in the wind. It was as if it did not know that so many people were coveting it. The luster on its leaves was especially beautiful. Ning Shu's heart was flustered from being seduced. What a seductress! The few parties confronted each other. No one made the first move. It was a silent confrontation. It depended on who broke the silence first. Everyone's strength was suppressed here. Ning Shu pushed the Cheongsam man hard. The Cheongsam man appeared in front of the world tree and almost stepped on it. Presumptuous. The newcomer was so arrogant that he wanted to dig up the world tree. Stop him. Don't let him dig up the world tree. The other 5 people stood in front of the Cheongsam man. Ning Shu realized that he could not use his vines. Damn, what was the point of not being able to use rules? Ning Shu gritted his teeth. He used his soul power to condense a sword and blocked the mission enforcers who were swarming over. The Cheongsam man did not speak. He quickly took out a jade hoe and began to carefully dig up the world tree. Although the situation was urgent, the Cheongsam man did not dare to be careless. He could not be too anxious. If he hurt the roots of the world tree, it would not be able to survive. It would be a waste of a world tree. The more anxious he was, the more careful he had to be. Obviously, 5 against many. Ning Shu and the others had no chance of winning. Why couldn't he use rules? It would be good if the vines could resist a little. Ning Shu poured the source of life into the tiger's mouth, and with a thought, the vines stretched out from the palm of his hand. The vines extended quickly, entangling these people. Obviously, they knew that if they were entangled by the vines, they would not be able to split up. Ning Shu's heart skipped a beat. There were restrictions on rules, but rules did not. She was just trying. When she was picking up fragments, she could use rules and vines to pick up fragments. At that time, it was the void. There were no rules at all. If she could still use vines, then she could use them here too. Rules were not powerful. Rules were powerful. Ning Shu was very happy. When others were suppressed by rules, she could still use rules. The vines were difficult to deal with. Even if they were cut, there would be an endless stream of vines extending and entangling. It would take a lot of effort to break free. When the others saw the Cheongsam man digging up the world tree, their eyes turned red. They were anxious but could not go over. Those who knew the Cheongsam man shouted anxiously, "Zhu Li, what you are doing is not right. The newcomers are so aggressive." The Cheongsam man ignored these people's shouts. Did they have to line up? Ning Shu felt that the vines could not last much longer. Chapter 2871. The main reason was that the environment here was too deformed. Using the law consumed too much energy. Ning Shu felt her strength draining away like a faucet. Ning Shu gritted his teeth and said to the Cheongsam man, "Hurry up. We can't hold on much longer." Everyone here had trump cards. The vines could stop them for a while, but not for long. Some people began to use their methods. The vines turned into sand like sand. Ning Shu had no choice but to produce more vines. The Cheongsam man was very focused. He was very careful not to destroy the foundation of the world tree. Ning Shu was not relaxed. The other 4 people also gritted their teeth and held on. They used their own methods, but 5 against more than 10 people. This situation could not last long. The Cheongsam man finally dug out the world tree. He placed it in an exquisite flower pot and put some soil. The Cheongsam man held the flower pot. Okay, let's go. When the others saw the world tree being dug out, they became anxious and attacked even more fiercely. Ning Shu did not panic. He used the vines to wrap around the man in animal skin who wanted to escape. He still needed him to find the spirit stone. This is an invisibility item. Where the Cheongsam man had obviously prepared beforehand. He handed the 5 of them an invisibility item. He saw the man in animal skin behind him and also put an item on him. This way, the chances of being caught were much lower. Ning Shu put away the vines. His whole body was exhausted. He carried the man in animal skin and quickly ran. Their souls were not heavy and did not leave many marks. However, Fong was a man. He was a strong man. When he stepped on the grass was bent and left a mark. Ning Shu wanted to carry him away, but his soul was weak. He had used too much strength just now, causing his soul to be a little tired. One of you will carry him away. Hurry. Ning Shu felt that the people behind him were relentless. If it were not for the spirit stone, they would have gone back long ago. If they went back, they would not be hunted down. In the city of the law, fighting was not allowed. If they went back, it would mean that the world tree belonged to the Cheongsam man. However, as long as they were in this world, they could still fight for the world tree. However, because of the spirit stone, they could not leave this world so soon. Ning Shu could not help but say, "Zhu Li, why don't you go first? We'll stay in this world." He couldn't use the system to locate him when he came here, but it was easy to go back. The Cheongsam man thought for a moment and felt that it was useless for him to stay here. The most important thing was that he had already gotten what he wanted, so there was no need for him to stay. Instead, he would be hunted down. With such a precious treasure, he couldn't be willful. Moreover, if they really did manage to get their hands on something like a spirit stone, he would spend money to buy it. The Cheongsam man was about to leave with the world tree in his arms. Wait a minute, I want to go back too. The female mission enforcer suddenly ran towards the Cheongsam man, wanting to leave with him. The Cheongsam man nodded and led her away. Thus, only Ning Shu and the 3 unfamiliar quest takers were left. Now, their cooperation could collapse at any time, especially after they found the Mind Stone. They immediately changed from collaborators to competitors. Then let's go, the quest giver said. Ning Shu nodded. No matter what, they had to avoid being hunted down first and then find the Mind Stone. Fong, who was being carried on a shoulder, trembled uncontrollably and felt extremely uncomfortable. Could it be that these people wanted to take him somewhere and eat him bite by bite? Just like how they ate the prey. Also, what was up with these people's strength? Why were they so powerful? He thought that he could escape while they were fighting, but he was caught by the vines. It was so hopeless. To Fong, these people were like aliens with mysterious and unfathomable powers. To him, this was a disaster. As Ning Shu ran, she asked Fong, "Which direction are we going? To the Sum River?" Fong pointed in a direction in despair. Ning Shu immediately said, "Let's go in that direction." As they ran, they seemed to feel that the world tree had disappeared. The feeling of being tracked finally weakened. The world tree had a special fragrance. If it disappeared, the fragrance would also disappear. These people would naturally think that the Cheongsam man had left with the world tree. They would be safe and could look for the Mind Stone in peace. Now that the crisis had been averted, everyone was relieved. They put down Ivory from their shoulders and let him lead the way. Ning Shu said directly, "Just lead the way. Don't play tricks. Our goal is the Mind Stone." Fong's face fell. Ning Shu felt that his expression was too rich. If he was not crying, he was depressed. When Fong saw the vines growing out of Ning Shu's palm, he immediately covered his face and ran in front. The 4 people followed behind him. The Sum River was a river that ran through the entire forest. Its surface was sparkling and shone with a golden luster. They stood on the bank of the Sum River and quickly released their spiritual power to check if there was a Mind Stone on the riverbank. Ning Shu found a white Mind Stone. He directly stretched out a small vine into the river and rolled up the stone. The Mind Stone was crystal clear and dazzling under the refraction of the sun. It was especially dazzling. Ning Shu had the means to get the vines from the river. The other three also got the crystal stones. Surprisingly, the crystal stones came in many colors. His crystal stones were white, while the other three's crystal stones were red, pink, and yellow. These stones were not only rich in spiritual power, but also beautiful. Especially with the migration of the river, the surface was smooth and beautiful. The water flowed downwards, and everyone went upstream. Fong looked at the three of them plundering the Mind Stone along the way and was very envious. These people were so powerful. Even if they found the Mind Stone at the bottom of the river through the Mind Stone, they had to go down the river to find the Mind Stone. These people could get the Mind Stone just by standing on the bank. Then he thought that these people had taken so many Mind Stones. There were not many left in their tribe. God, he was really a sinner of the tribe. Why didn't they let him die in the desert? He was enslaved by these demons to find the Mind Stone. These demons obviously needed the Mind Stone too. If they used the Mind Stone, would they deal with them, enslave them, or kill them all? The more Fong thought about it, the paler his face became. His dark skin looked like it was covered with a layer of flour. His whole body was trembling, and his face was full of despair and helplessness. Should he just die? But these people already knew about the Mind Stone. If he died like this, no one would inform the tribe. The tribe would not know that a disaster was imminent. He was still a sinner of the tribe. So, he could not die. He had to go back alive and report to the tribe that there was a very powerful demon. Ning Shu and the other three did not care about the imagination of the man in animal skin. They focused on finding the Mind Stone in the river. Chapter 2872. The group of 5 went upstream. The further upstream they went, the more spirit stones there were. Ning Shu and the other 3 mission enforcers were not familiar with each other. They didn't even know each other's names, so they started to have conflicts. For example, they all found the spirit stones at the bottom of the river and wanted to collect them at the same time. The result was a stalemate. It was awkward. However, Ning Shu let go of the vines and chose to collect other spirit stones. Most importantly, Ning Shu's vines could stretch out a lot. He spread out the layer at the bottom of the river and collected more spirit stones than the other 3. Ning Shu clearly felt that the 3 mission enforcers' faces were not very good. However, he had the means to restrain himself. Did he have to pretend to be polite? If they were friends, it would be fine. However, if he was polite, others would not be polite. Therefore, Ning Shu collected the spirit stones. Of course, in addition to scanning the spirit stones at the bottom of the river, he also had to pay attention to the surrounding situation in case there was any danger or ferocious animals. He obviously shrank back a lot. The more he walked forward, the more hesitant he became. It was as if there was something terrifying in front of him and he didn't dare to move forward. He hid behind Ning Shu. Obviously, he felt that Ning Shu's combat power was quite strong. Ning Shu saw that the natives were so vigilant and didn't dare to relax. He would rather collect less spirit stones than be defeated in this place. He felt that these spirit stones were not very important. What was important was the origin of the spirit stones, how the spirit stones were formed, and where the mineral was. Ayo! An animal that looked a bit like a tabby cat rushed out of the thorns. Its body was light and looked a bit like a cat, but it was more arrogant and fierce than a cat. Its eyes were incomparably deep. Looking into its eyes, one would feel as if they could drown in it, unable to break free. Ning Shu shook his head and looked at the cat. Such a small and fierce cat scared the burly man so much that he trembled. He hunched his back and hid behind Ning Shu. The muscles all over his body were trembling. Seeing that the natives were so scared, Ning Shu didn't dare to be careless. He looked at the cat sitting on the ground. One cat appeared, and then countless cats appeared on the branches. On the ground, pairs of blue eyes lit up, and they quietly licked their paws and paws. There were so many stray cats. His teeth chattered even more fiercely as he muttered something under his breath. No one knew what he was saying. The other three stood together with Ning Shu and whispered, "There are a lot of them. It'll be difficult to kill them." Many ants could kill an elephant, not to mention so many cats. Everyone could feel that the cats were not simple, especially those pairs of cat eyes. They looked very strange and made people's hair stand on end. Ning Shu felt that they had intruded into the cat's territory, especially since there were more and more spirit stones in the river. Were the cats guarding the spirit stones? He even took the spirit stone as his own property. There were so many cats, but they were all silent. There wasn't even a meow. He hugged his head and squatted on the ground, shivering. He began to cry again. Ning Shu had a guess in his heart. He asked Fong, "What are these?" Ye said in horror, "Don't provoke them. They are monsters and will kill you." It wasn't that their tribe hadn't thought of looking for the god's stone along the river. They wanted to find the god who gave birth to the god's stone. But here, many young men of the tribe were killed by these monsters. They didn't need to do anything. They were not injured or bleeding, but they suddenly fell to the ground and died. This kind of terrifying method was unheard of. It was enough to make you tremble. So the tribe repeatedly asked the people to stay away. If he hadn't been forced to come here, you would have wanted to run away. But he couldn't beat these people. You thought that when these people were killed by the monsters, he could take the opportunity to escape. You was not stupid, especially when it came to fighting with the prey in the jungle. Stupid people would have been eliminated long ago. Don't look at their eyes. Their eyes can kill. The god doesn't allow anyone to disturb him. These monsters protect the god. Let's go back. You advised. He had said what he needed to say. Don't blame him if anything happened to these people. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes. It was similar to what he thought. He felt that these cats had become masters of spiritual power under the nourishment of the spirit stone. They could use spiritual power to attack. Ning Shu had a headache. He felt that a cat's spiritual power was stronger than his. Even if it wasn't, with so many cats gathered together, their spiritual power had reached a terrifying level. When it came to spiritual power, it was time to talk about the separation of the hostage wall. Ning Shu said to the three task enforcers, "These cats use spiritual power to attack." The three of them frowned. Spiritual power attacks were impossible to guard against. And if they were attacked, they couldn't recover like physical bodies. Especially if the spiritual ball in the sea of consciousness was damaged. It was very likely that they would become a wandering soul without consciousness. The cats didn't attack Ning Shu, but their eyes were full of warning. Obviously, if he took another step forward, these cats would swarm him and attack him. Should they go or not? Should they go forward? Ning Shu asked for the opinions of the three people. Ning Shu felt that these collected spirit stones were not a big harvest at all. His intuition told him that there were more good things behind. But the problem was that they had to break through the group of cats, and they didn't know what dangers there would be. Should they go or not? This was a problem. Ning Shu asked for the opinions of the three people and asked, "Should we continue or retreat?" Obviously, they were unwilling to retreat now, especially when there might be treasures ahead. The three people said, "Let's try to go forward first." Ning Shu also thought so. They would retreat when they couldn't hold on. Now that they still had the strength to fight, of course, they couldn't give up. The cats obviously felt that these invaders weren't going to leave. They stretched out their sharp nails from their paws and licked them. Their pupils became vertical, and they were full of danger. Ning Shu condensed a whip. This whip was condensed with spiritual power. Since it was a spiritual battle, of course, spiritual power had to be used. The other three people also showed their weapons. The battle was about to start. Fong was in a bad mood. He wanted to sneak away, hoping that when the battle started, no one would pay attention to him. He would never leave the tribe again. The outside world was really dangerous. He was so scared. The vines wrapped around Fong and didn't let him escape. Even if he wanted to escape, he might not be able to. He would be killed by the cats. Ning Shu swung the long whip, and the tail of the whip swept the cat that pounced on him. The cat immediately let out a shrill cry. The effect of the whip was not physical, but mental. When the whip hit the cat's mental, it must be painful. Seeing that their companions were injured, The cats all widened their eyes and released powerful spiritual power. Ning Shu groaned. He felt as if a hammer had hit his head. It was very painful. Chapter 2873. The other three were like Ning Shu, covering their heads with their hands. Although Ye was not the main target of the attack, he was also in pain and was rolling on the ground. Ning Shu gathered his spiritual power to counterattack, making a shield to prevent the spiritual power from entering his sea of consciousness. A spiritual power battle was like a martial arts master's internal force battle. If one was not careful, they would go crazy. If they were not careful, the spiritual ball in their sea of consciousness would encounter an unbearable force and would definitely burst. At that time, they would become fools. When attacking, Ning Shu had to protect his spiritual ball. This kind of battle did not have overwhelming and gorgeous moves, but it was very dangerous. Once he relaxed, it would not be as easy as breaking arms and legs. Ow ow! Some cats screamed and fell to the ground, bleeding from their nostrils. Obviously, their spiritual power had been attacked. Ning Shu's spiritual power was not strong, and the other three people's spiritual power seemed to be a little stronger than Ning Shu's. The cat's eyes narrowed into a straight line, and an even more majestic spiritual power came from all directions, forming a frightening power. This power formed a fishnet-like spiritual net, invading the sea of consciousness with a strong force, trying to cover the spiritual ball. Ning Shu was shocked. These cats were so good at using spiritual power that they formed a spiritual net to catch the spiritual ball. What would happen if the spiritual ball was caught in the net? The spiritual ball would be pulled away, and if it was caught in the net, the other party would do whatever they wanted. This was quite sad. Ning Shu felt that he was not as smart as the cats. The spiritual ball felt danger and fled in the sea of consciousness, while the spiritual net chased after it, gradually getting bigger and bigger, leaving the spiritual ball nowhere to escape. The four of them were shocked and looked at each other. To be able to use spiritual power to such an extent, even a beast could not be underestimated, especially when it was about teamwork. The four of them had no choice but to expel the spiritual net in the sea of consciousness. If the spiritual ball was caught in the net, it would be pulled and might even be pulled out of the sea of consciousness. Without the spiritual ball, they would be useless. Ning Shu anxiously drove the mental sphere to avoid the spiritual net. She was chased by a cat like a mouse, and the mental sphere was like a trembling mouse with nowhere to run. More importantly, the spiritual net was getting bigger and denser. Ning Shu's heart was filled with anxiety. He had not dared to be careless from the start. He knew that his weakness was his mental strength and his weak soul. No matter how careful he was, he didn't expect that the mental sphere would still be caught in the net. Once the mental sphere was caught, it was pulled out by the spiritual net. The spirit ball jumped and struggled, not wanting to be dragged out of the sea of consciousness. Ning Shu cursed in his heart. He had been tossing and turning in the great river and sea, but in the end, he had fallen here. I must not be dragged out of the sea of consciousness. I can't lose the spiritual ball. While the two sides were fighting, Ye covered his head and crawled away. However, the two sides didn't care about him. After all, if he was distracted or panicked, the other side might break through. Teeth were not important at all. Ning Shu gritted her teeth and persevered. She was a little panicked. It was the first time she had encountered such a battle. Her mental sphere was caught in the net. The other three were not in a better situation. The two sides were in a deadlock, attacking each other with mental strength. If an outsider disturbed them at this time, they might be distracted. However, there were no extra people or animals here. The atmosphere here was oppressive. Even if animals and birds passed by, they would take a detour. Ning Shu took out a spiritual stone and violently absorbed the mental strength inside to assist the trapped mental sphere. The mental sphere absorbed the extra mental strength and seemed to be more powerful. It struggled to break free and not be dragged out of the sea of consciousness. The colorful spiritual stone in Ning Shu's hand turned into powder. He took out another spiritual stone and absorbed it. He was not in the mood to care about these spiritual stones. Saving his life was more important. With the help of the mental strength, The mental sphere dragged the spiritual net, but it could not get rid of it. Ning Shu felt that this was not a solution. There was no progress at all in this game. Anyway, the spiritual net was also made of mental strength. He might as well merge it with the spiritual net, taking the other party's mental strength for his own use. With a strategy, Ning Shu gave up resisting. The mental sphere began to melt and merge with the spiritual net. The other party felt danger and wanted to withdraw the spiritual net, but the mental sphere and the spiritual net were already connected. The mental sphere was like a greedy wolf, swallowing the spiritual net bit by bit. In the end, the mental sphere became a little bigger. It went from the size of a ping pong to the size of a fist. It was silver-white with a little black in it. Ow, ow! The cat, who had lost its mental strength, began to wail. Its cries were full of pain. Teeth, who had run far away, heard the cries. His face turned pale and he ran even faster. He had to return to the tribe and inform the tribe. He had to inform the tribe. If those people really killed those monsters, then they could go find the God's stone. However, Teeth was more worried that those people would not let him go. Would they find the tribe? What if they brought disaster to the tribe? Although Yo was imagining things, he still ran towards the direction of the tribe as fast as he could. Oh my God, this world is really too dangerous. The failure of their companion affected these cats, especially when they heard their companion's shrill cries. It was inevitable that their minds would be affected. Because of this, the other 3 people were able to get rid of the mental attack. The 4 of them who had been reborn could not help but wipe the cold sweat on their foreheads. Although there was no sweat, they were still scared. Woo woo woo. These cats crawled and made an attacking posture. They bared their teeth and looked at the 4 people while retreating. Obviously, they were planning to retreat. Because they could not defeat the other party, they were retreating strategically. If these cats were going to fight to the death, they might have to retreat. Now, it was a test of whose mental strength was better. Ning Shu took a step forward, and these cats immediately squeezed out warning purrs from their throats. Their eyes were fixed on Ning Shu. Ning Shu took another step forward, and these cats retreated a little. Some cats dragged their injured companions and ran away in the thorny forest. The remaining cats stared at the 4 people. The other party was about to retreat. Their momentum was stronger, and they walked straight over. These cats were so frightened that they fled in all directions. They climbed up the trees and looked at the people below. The 4 people were trying their best to protect the safety of their mental balls. Even if these cats did not attack, they did not dare to relax. As for the mental stones in the river, they did not pick them up. Sometimes, there were cats that would attack them. They did not know what this animal was called. It looked like a cat, so Ning Shu called it a cat in his heart. Psst. Chapter 2874. Just like that, the 4 of them walked out of the cat's territory. Feeling that there was no cat watching them, the 4 of them let out a long sigh of relief. They had finally gotten rid of the cat that could use mental power. Everyone had a look of surprise on their faces. The cat could use spiritual power so well, even better than the mission enforcers. These cats could use mental power and strengthen their mental power. Was it because of the mental stones? If even cats could become so strong, how good would it be if they found a mine? The 4 of them quickened their pace and gave up on the small number of mental stones in the river. Instead of spending time fishing for mental stones in the river, it was better to find the mine earlier. There must be more mental stones there. Especially if they stayed by the river for too long, they might attract other monsters. The 4 of them were sneaky and even used the invisibility tool given by the man in the Cheongsam. Souls had no aura to begin with. Now that they were invisible, they were silent. The native had run away. These worlds were full of treasures. Ning Shu had wanted to take the native and wander around. Maybe he could find something he needed. In the end, he had run away. At that time, he didn't have extra mental power to pay attention to him. Forget it, let's get the mental stones first. The rest can wait. The further upstream they went, the more mental stones there were in the river. In the clear places, they could see that the mental stones at the bottom of the river were shining. There were also some mental stones gathered in the crevices. These mental stones weren't as smooth as the ones downstream because they hadn't been polished by the water and stones. Everyone was shocked and quickened their pace. When they reached a mountain range, they were all shocked by the scene in front of them. A stream ran through the mountain range, surrounded by colorful mental stones. The big ones were taller than a person, and the small ones were as small as sand. The river was dyed in color. Oh my God! Ning Shu's eyes were almost blinded by the light reflected by the crystals. He quickly jumped into the river and dug for mental stones in his meson space. Especially when he stuffed large pieces of mental stones into his meson space. The river near the mountain range was completely colorful. It was covered with layers and layers of colorful crystals. The water flowed over it, and it was indescribably colorful. Even if these crystals weren't mental stones and were just ordinary gems, this amount was enough to make people's breath quicken. There were actually very few spirit stones that were washed downstream, unless there was a flood or a rainy season. However, only small pieces of spirit stones were washed away. Large spirit stones couldn't be flushed away. Ning Shu moved large chunks of spirit stones into his meson space. The others didn't stay idle either. They were like poor people entering a money pit, trying to get as much money as possible. He couldn't wait to get rid of all these. After taking away the large spirit stones, Ning Shu began to pick up the small ones. While picking up the spirit stones, he also paid attention to his surroundings. There might be some danger around. With so many spirit stones, it was enough to breed many beasts that could use spirit attacks like cats. If all of them could use these spirit stones, including the tribesmen, then many wild beasts could use them as well. Because there were enough spirit stones to cover the entire stream, there were no conflicts for the time being. Ning Shu's spatial ring was already full. Both of them were full. She had collected a lot of large spirit stones, and her intuition told her that large spirit stones were better. Since the stream ran through the mountain range, it must have passed through the spirit stone mine. Ning Shu stepped on the spirit stones at the bottom of the water, fishing for spirit stones as he walked. How could these stones be so colorful and beautiful? The three watched Ning Shu walk into the mine and hurriedly followed. The water cave was a little dark, and water was dripping. With a sweep of his spirit power, he found that these cliffs were inlaid with spirit stones. Damn, he hated that he didn't have a few more pairs of hands. Several people were very envious of Ning Shu's many vines. The vines grew out and swept away many large spirit stones. They were very unhappy, but there were so many spirit stones. Although they weren't big, they couldn't say anything. They could only pick up the slightly smaller ones. Oh my God, so many spirit stones. Could it be that the whole mountain is a spirit stone mine? It's a pity that we can't come again. Everyone was amazed, testing their tolerance again and again. They felt like they had become rich overnight. According to Ning Shu's experience, in general, the good stuff was in the middle of the mine. It was the essence of the mine. Just like the soul stone mine, the middle was the golden soul origin liquid. What good stuff was in the middle of the mine? Ning Shu released his spirit power, wanting to penetrate the mountain range to see what good stuff was in it. But these spirit stones were rich in spirit power, and he couldn't penetrate the mine. Then he could only dig. If there was good stuff in the middle, how would they divide it? When that time came, a conflict would break out. But now, they had to work together to dig a way out. However, Ning Shu still wanted to ask them about their next plans. If they didn't care about the things in the middle of the mine and wanted to leave, he would dig alone. My meson space is already full. What do you plan to do next? Are you leaving? Ning Shu asked nonchalantly. It was better not to fight with each other. It would save him a lot of effort. The three of them looked at each other, and one of them said, "Since we're all here, of course we have to dig to see if there's anything good in the mine. Gathering the essence of heaven, earth, sun, and moon, there's bound to be something good, especially with such a large mine." Ning Shu felt a little helpless. Obviously, they weren't stupid. They all knew that there had to be something good in this mine. Ning Shu said, "Then let's dig a way out and see what's in it." The four of them used their spirit power to form tools, hoes, and shovels, and began to dig. They put away the spirit stones they dug. Not only did they have to dig a hole, but they also had to pay attention to the surroundings to see if there were any dangers. The four of them didn't move fast. Ning Shu used vines to loosen the soil, making it easier to dig. Even so, it still took a lot of time. It was very tiring. Although there were so many spirit stones around, everyone was numb to it. They weren't as shocked and ecstatic as when they first saw it. The mine was so big and everyone was happy. The bigger it was, the more time it took to dig. It would take a long time to dig to the center. But since it was so big, there had to be something good in the middle. The bigger the mine, the better. Even if they couldn't take away these spirit stones this time, they could try again. They remembered the address of this void world. They could come again when the time came. But they needed tools. They didn't have any tools in their hands. Only with tools could they locate it. What a pity! Chapter 2875. Originally, they had only come to help with the world tree, but they didn't expect to gain so much. No one thought of coming to this place again. But there were so many minerals that they couldn't take them away in a short time. Ning Shu dug while chatting with his system. He asked the Chongsam man, Zhu Li, to ask him to get the address of this void world. If he helped with a spatial passage, he could come again. After a while, the backup system said, the transmission of information in the void world is not good. Your message has been sent out, but the other party may not be able to receive it. Sigh, Ning Shu sighed. If that was the case, giving up such a large mineral vein would be worse than death. His heart ached. He couldn't help it. After spending a lot of time, the four of them finally dug to the center. In the middle of the mineral vein, there was a huge crystal that looked a bit like a heart. There seemed to be blood vessels on the surface of the heart. Viscous liquid dripped from it. This liquid refracted gorgeous colors and was as viscous as paint. Under the crystal, there was a small pool of viscous liquid gathered together. The eyes of the four of them were about to pop out. Liquid mental power. Fuck, we're rich. The four of them looked at each other and then rushed up to snatch the liquid mental power. Thump, thump, thump. It was like the rhythmic beating of a human heart. Ning Shu looked up and saw the heart beating above his head. At the same time, a powerful mental power pressed down like a mountain, causing the minds of the four of them to go blank. A crack appeared in the mental sphere in their consciousness. Ning Shu instinctively felt that something was wrong. Even though his mind was blank, his instinct for danger was still there. He hurriedly retreated and stopped snatching the liquid mental power. The other three reacted one after another and hurriedly avoided the attack range of the heart. They looked at the beating heart with lingering fear. Was this mineral vein going to become a spirit? Why did it grow a heart? Then, would the viscous liquid dripping on the ground form blood in the future? But this mineral vein was destined not to form, because the stream had already crossed the mountain range and pierced through the mineral vein. It was equivalent to the power of the mountain range leaking. Many of the spirit stones had been washed away by the stream. Without a complete and sealed environment, it was not easy to form life. Ning Shu checked the spiritual sphere. It was cracked and it hurt a lot. His head hurt like crazy. This was the first time he had suffered such a serious mental injury. Sure enough, mental attacks were high-end attacks. Not only did he have to have high-end attacks, but he also had to turn his sea of consciousness into an impenetrable fortress so that other people's spiritual power couldn't attack him. The eyes of the three male mission enforcers were burning. Their hearts were beating fast, and their expressions were both excited and pained. It was obvious that their minds had also been damaged. All the spirit stones in the mines can't compare to this heart. It's a pity that all of us combined aren't even 1/10,000th of this heart's spiritual energy. Is there any way to remove this heart? Ning Shu looked at the heart. It shone with a 7-colored luster and dripped with a viscous liquid. It was very precious. If she were to use it forcefully, her spiritual ball would be crushed into powder in an instant. The problem was that they couldn't take it down, so they could only look at it and sigh. Her ears were filled with the sound of the beating heart. Ning Shu couldn't help but touch her chest. It seemed that her own heartbeat was also beating along with this rhythm. However, she was already a spirit. Her heartbeat didn't exist anymore. One of them couldn't help but take 2 steps forward, wanting to get closer to the heart. In the end, an even more terrifying spiritual power came over, causing the other 3 to suffer as well. They were like people who had fallen into the sea. The opponent's spiritual power was the endless sea, and they were a small match. The flame was extinguished in an instant. Gotcha. The spiritual sphere in Ning Shu's mind cracked open yet another crack. If this continued, the spiritual sphere would collapse. Don't fucking die and implicate everyone, Ning Shu said angrily. Her spiritual power was the weakest here, so she suffered the most damage. The eyes of the man who walked over became dim. The others hurriedly pulled him over. He held his head. My spiritual sphere broke. It split in half. Everyone was shocked. Fuck, it split in half. Fortunately, it wasn't crushed into powder. He held his head. The pain was so great that his spirit began to blur. He used his spirit to hit the wall, trying to use the pain of his physical body to alleviate the pain of the spiritual sphere breaking. However, they were all spirits. Their physical bodies didn't have any. Ning Shu looked at the heart and knew that she couldn't do anything about it. This was because the power was not on the same level. Perhaps it was because the mountain was broken and it couldn't form a spirit, so it vented its anger on them. Especially since they had dug a hole. This was equivalent to digging a hole in a human's body. Ning Shu wanted to retreat. She couldn't deal with this kind of existence. When her spiritual power was strong, she might be able to deal with it. However, she obviously couldn't deal with this kind of existence that gathered the essence of heaven and earth. Ning Shu endured the pain of the spiritual sphere's crack and said to the 3, "Let's go. We've already gotten a lot of spiritual stones. Let's retreat quickly. Otherwise, they would lose their lives." They couldn't be too greedy. Greed had a price to pay. With the previous example, they all knew that this heart was not to be trifled with. They dragged the task enforcer who had hit the wall and planned to retreat. "Where are you taking my body?" Suddenly, a voice appeared in their minds. This voice was like a man's or a woman's, and they couldn't tell it apart. There was no difference between men and women. Ning Shu's spirit, which didn't have a heartbeat, felt that the heart in his chest was beating because of nervousness. The 4 people's spirits froze. They looked at each other, hoping that the voice in their minds was an illusion. However, when they saw the others' horrified and distorted faces, they knew that they weren't the only ones who heard the voice. Ning Shu felt a chill run down her spine. Perhaps they would all die here. He had to be sure that he could get into the world of samsara. Ning Shu turned to look at the beating colorful heart and said, "We didn't mean to offend you. We'll leave right away." "What a complete body. I'm so envious. Can you leave just because you said you didn't mean to offend me?" The voice sounded like a man's or a woman's in their minds. The spiritual sphere shook. It was so painful. There was already a crack, and now it was even worse. Ning Shu felt that they had really hit the gun muzzle. If they took those spiritual stones and left, the heart wouldn't be so angry. Ning Shu held his head. He was already very tired after being attacked by those cats. Now there was a crack, and it was very painful. "I'm going to die, I'm going to die." Chapter 2876. Now that they had entered the nest, they didn't expect this thing to have developed consciousness. If it hadn't been cut off by a stream, it would have become a living thing. This was something that Ning Shu and the 3 mission enforcers never expected. Now they were trapped here and couldn't move. And this consciousness that was neither male nor female was obviously angry. How to get out was the most important thing. The other party's spiritual power had reached an immeasurable level. They were nothing in front of this consciousness. They were nothing but trash. The other party had a mineral deposit as its backing. They had trouble killing cats, let alone dealing with such an existence. This was especially true for the people here. With just a single exchange, their spirit balls were damaged. One of the spirit balls was actually split in half. Ning Shu felt that if it came again, her spiritual ball would also crack. He didn't know how many pieces it would break into. Ning Shu and the other 3 didn't dare to move. They were afraid that if they moved, the overwhelming spiritual power would rush over, even if they could really escape. The problem was that if they didn't get crushed by the terrifying spiritual power, they would definitely be crushed to death. The spiritual ball instantly turned into powder. Before they were sure that the four of them could defeat this heart, they couldn't make a move. There was no such thing as regret now. It could only be said that opportunities and risks were mutual. If they didn't come in, they would regret it in the future. But if they came in and saw it, they might even find a way to escape. Now, any action would only provoke it. Although they didn't know how the stream ran through the mountain, it could only be said that the mineral deposit's luck wasn't good. Without such an opportunity, it couldn't become a human. Even if this world didn't have a heavenly axiom, it would be the end of this world if it gave birth to such a terrifying thing. Ning Shu felt that the mineral deposit that ran through the mountain was to break the momentum, so that it couldn't become a spirit or a human. It would lie here forever. As time passed, the stream took away the spiritual stones of the mineral deposit. The four of them didn't dare to move or speak. The atmosphere in the mine was suffocating. They used their eyes to communicate with each other. No one had the will to fight. After all, there was no suspense in a fight between ants and elephants. Plus, they had so few people. They wanted to find a way to escape, but they didn't dare to act on their own. If one person acted first, the person who was one step behind might suffer. Take one step and move the whole body. Ahem. Ning Shu coughed twice to break the stifling atmosphere. He said, "We really didn't know this was your place. I'm sorry, but you have accumulated the essence of heaven and earth in your body. Sooner or later, you will succeed and have a complete body." Ha! That voice laughed. It was hard to tell whether it was a man or a woman. Such a laugh made people feel disgusted. It is the accumulation of the essence of heaven and earth, but a puddle of water has destroyed me for so many years. I have endured loneliness, and in the future, there will be even more loneliness, waiting for death alone. Sooner or later, my body will be washed away by the water, and my strength will decrease. Ning Shu was completely at a loss for words. After thinking about it, he could only continue to boil the chicken soup. How could you die? Failure is the mother of success. You only failed temporarily. You can continue to restrain your power. I can return the spirit stone to you. Ning Shu only wanted to leave now. This bastard's words were obviously full of resentment and unwillingness. This situation was the same as her assets being taken away by someone else. In fact, it was even more serious because she might even lose her life. How about I give those things to you? Ning Shu, thank you, but it's better to return them to you. Take it as your reward for staying here. I have paid all the people who came here before. Staying here, would they die here, or would they really stay here and wait for death? The difference between the two was huge. Ning Shu quickly waved his hand. No need. I have something to deal with at home. I can't stay here. How about I come to see you next time? You are different from the people who came before. You don't have bodies. Stay and tell me about you. I want to hear. Oh right, someone came before and told me a lot of things. If I had a pair of legs, I would walk around. I don't like it when people disobey me and then reject me. I'm actually very angry. Why is it so unfair to me? Ning Shu glanced at the other three and had no choice but to say, what fairness? Didn't I also have all my belongings taken away? Just like what he said, it was money to buy my life. I'm like a sheep whose wool was taken away. As for why he saved me, it was because a wolf appeared. A sheep is the owner's property. If the wolf killed the sheep, the owner would be the one who lost. Ning Shu was once very grateful to 2333 for saving her. Even if her assets were taken away, she didn't go crazy. She just treated it as money to buy her life. It was unfair to begin with. She was an animal and someone else's property. Even if she was free now, one day her owner would come back and she would be someone else's animal for the rest of her life. Moreover, Ning Shu almost understood now. Her owner took most of the soul power she received from doing missions, and even the soul stones and soul fluid that were sent to be purified. The reason why she left a little for her was because she was afraid that she would make a fuss. Then do you hate her? The voice that was neither male nor female asked. Ning Shu spread his hands. I don't love or hate. My heart is as still as water. If we meet again, I'll just bite her to death. He had to be careful not to be bitten to death by an animal. If you didn't meet a few scumbags, your life wouldn't be perfect. You're very interesting. Stay here and die with me. Ning Shu, die with you? How could that be? She still had so many things to do. If she stays, the three of you can leave. If she doesn't, you all will die together. The voice that was neither male nor female gently sounded in the hearts of the four people. Ning Shu's face was suddenly covered with a layer of potash. If she stayed, the three of them would live. If she didn't, the four of them would die. This heart was really good at playing. It was clearly strong, but it was obviously in the mood to play with a few ants. It was too boring and lonely. Ning Shu cursed in his heart. The other three men looked at Ning Shu. Their eyes flashed, but they didn't say anything. Ning Shu felt that it was normal for them to want to leave, especially since they were just strangers who didn't even know each other's names. There was no need to stay and fight. Ning Shu didn't feel anything in his heart. He didn't have much hope. If he had to ask others to fight with him, they had the right to refuse and leave. Ning Shu said, "You guys go. I'll deal with it slowly." Chapter 2877. Hearing Ning Shu's words, the three of them felt a little bad. One of them said, "Wait here, we'll go back and call someone over." Ning Shu just nodded and didn't have much hope. This heart obviously hadn't had chicken soup before, otherwise, she would have just said that she was interesting. If it were a normal person, they would have rolled their eyes and said, "Stop talking, the chicken soup is going bad." The two of them dragged the injured mission enforcer and crawled out of the mine, forgetting that they could teleport. It seemed that this heart was quite good at keeping its word. Until the three of them left. Ning Shu leaned against the wall of the mine full of colorful spiritual stones, enduring the pain of the spiritual ball cracking. "Continue talking about you. I kept you because I think you're at least prettier than those people. I want to eat you. You're very attractive, especially your aura." Ning Shu, a little disappointed. He thought he really found her interesting, but it turned out he wanted to eat her. He thought he was really an interesting soul. Ning Shu sat down. He couldn't escape anyway, so he prepared to let the backup system send the AI to her. With the AI, she could at least absorb part of the spiritual power. It would reduce the damage to him. "Why don't you have a body? Why can you walk around without a body?" Obviously, this was what the heart was most curious about. Before, there were too many people, so it couldn't ask. Now, only Ning Shu was here, so it asked what it wanted to know the most. Ning Shu said, "I'm a soul. I don't have a body. I'm a soul." What's a soul? This was a little hard to explain. Ning Shu felt like he had become an encyclopedia. People have a body, and the body has a soul. When the soul leaves the body dies. When the body can no longer carry the soul, it's time to die. Living beings are divided into two parts, the body and the soul. It didn't quite understand and said, "Just like how my power gets weaker and weaker until I finally die. Why don't I have a soul? How the fuck would I know? This kind of natural formed by the essence of heaven, earth, sun, and moon seem to have consciousness and a body. As for souls, even ordinary living beings had them." "You're more high-end, so you don't have a soul," Ning Shu said with a serious face. How could she leave this place? A black Rubik's Cube-sized brain appeared in his hand. Ning Shu held the brain tightly. Of course, he couldn't take the initiative to attack his heart. The previous attacks were all small fries. If they were provoked, who knew how much mental power they would unleash on the other party? She was like a broken boat in the sea, about to be destroyed at any moment. Moreover, Ning Shu didn't know what the limits of the artificial intelligence system were. If its limits were very low, it wouldn't be able to block most of the attacks. If the heart was willing to let her go, that would be for the best. If it didn't, she would fight it out. Furthermore, Ning Shu wanted to stall for time. Perhaps the three of them would go back and inform the Cheongsam man, and the Cheongsam man might come over. However, Ning Shu still hoped that he would not come. Ordinary people were clearly incapable of dealing with such an existence. Even if he came, it would be pointless. Are you waiting for those people to come back? They won't come back. They're terrified. They're even thinking that they'll never come back to this damned place again. You've been abandoned by your companions. You must be feeling terrible. Ning Shu only said, "It's not that bad. It's a temporary team. We can't even be considered friends. It's unrealistic to risk our lives for each other." Even grannies didn't dare to help, let alone risk their lives for each other. There was no such thing as resentment or sadness. Then tell me about how you were robbed of your family property. I'd like to hear it. Ning Shu, can you not talk about these bullshit things? Ning Shu changed the topic. Let me tell you about many things in the world. Do you believe that I'm a little angel who fulfills people's wishes, a cute little angel? The heart. And Ning Shu picked out some interesting things she had encountered in the plane and told them about it. She also emphasized the pain and suffering of the client. The heart didn't interrupt and listened quietly. The sound of people talking in the mine was mixed with the thumping of the heart. Ning Shu's mouth was dry from talking. He stopped and said, "I really have to fulfill people's wishes. I have to go." The heart muttered, "Why can't I walk? Why can't I have a body? Even if it's a soul. Why can those weak animals that run all over the mountains and plains, running on my body, living in fear, have a body? Why can't I have one?" Ning Shu said, "It's because you're too strong that it's even harder for you to have a body. You can't even form one." With such terrifying mental power, if it really had a body, it would be a walking nuclear weapon. With powerful mental power, it would be unstoppable. It's better for you to lie down here quietly. It's safer. If I give up all my power, I'll have a body? Ning Shu immediately fell silent. She couldn't guarantee that this thing would have a body, and it wasn't even certain that it would have a body. Because the situation of this mountain wasn't suitable for a body. If I give up my power, will I have a body? The heart asked again. Ning Shu shook his head. "I'll tell you the truth, don't be angry because I don't know if you'll have a body." Ning Shu held the brain tightly to prevent it from suddenly becoming angry. At the same time, he stood up and slowly moved towards the mine. "Are you afraid of me?" Seeing Ning Shu move, the heart said, "I haven't killed you yet. I just want to talk to you, and I won't eat you right now." Ning Shu, don't talk about eating so much, okay? It's very scary. Your power is very strong. You can kill me in an instant. Of course I'm afraid. What I'm afraid of is power, not you. Ning Shu blurred the focus. "If I had a body like yours, would I be able to walk around?" The heart thumped, and the rhythm became much faster. It was obvious that it was much more excited. Ning Shu said helplessly, "I don't have a body. I'm a soul. I can't let you have my body." Even if it was a possession, it still needed a body. Since your spiritual power is so strong, you should be able to see the entire forest with just a sweep of your spiritual power. Even an ant could be seen clearly, so there was no need for him to look around. He just wanted a body. He wanted to walk around, to be able to jump around and yearn for freedom. Then how should I have a body? Tell me and I'll let you go. Ning Shu, how the hell would I know? You're just relying on her. You're so powerful but you don't even know. What can she do? Psst. Chapter 2878. Ning Shu's head felt like it was about to explode. His entire body felt unwell. "If you don't have a solution, then I can only eat you." "Your body is very attractive to me," the heart said sharply. Ning Shu's head hurt even more. Both of these were dead ends, okay? She had no choice at all. Ning Shu said, "Why don't I accompany you more in the future and tell you about interesting things outside?" "No, if I eat you, I'll know everything about you. If you leave, you won't come back. I want to eat you. Maybe I can have a body after eating you." "You have to hold it in. If you eat me, you still won't have a body. Then you won't even have someone to talk to. You'll be very lonely." Ning Shu had to calm his heart, especially when he saw that it was beating faster. He had to say, "I'll think of a way. Don't explode first. Don't explode." "Oh, then you have to think of a way quickly." Ning Shu was speechless. How did this become her responsibility? What could she do? She was bald. Ning Shu wondered if he could get a puppet or something and let his consciousness enter the puppet. That would be considered a body. However, where would she get a puppet from? Besides, she didn't have the money to buy one. Ning Shu said tentatively, "Why don't you project your consciousness onto some animals that can walk and jump? That way, you'll have a body." "It won't work. I've tried it before." Those animals directly exploded into a bloody mist with a bang. All right, stop describing it. It seemed that his mind was too strong. An ordinary body couldn't withstand it. Ning Shu felt that even if he exchanged for a puppet worth 2 or 3 million merit points, the puppet might still explode. "Actually, you're pretty good like this." Ning Shu comforted her sincerely. "Other than the fact that you can't walk, you're very strong. I want a body. If you can't think of a way, then I can only eat you. Your aura makes me instinctively desire. I feel that if I eat you, I'll have a body." He had heard this threat so many times, but he was still terrified. Ning Shu said tentatively, "This is a brain that can absorb spiritual energy. You can enter here and I'll take you around." Ning Shu wanted to know if the Rubik's Cube could absorb his spiritual force and what were his chances of escaping. "It's too small. I'll feel uncomfortable inside." "It's over." The smart brain doesn't seem to be of any use anymore. Just how powerful is this guy's spiritual power? So hopeless, so helpless. Ning Shu bit his finger as his mind raced. It was obvious that this guy had possessed something. Flowers, birds, fishes, and insects, even if it was a very large animal, it would probably explode into a bloody mist. If it possessed a tree, the tree would definitely explode into powder. Such a strong spiritual power, I'm so jealous. Completely unrecognizable. Obviously, only when he formed his own body could he withstand his power. However, the problem was that he couldn't form his own body. That's why it's a scam. She wanted to go back. Ning Shu couldn't help but rub his eyebrows. When he touched the mark between his eyebrows, he suddenly thought of a way. "I have a little source of life here. I'll give it to you. Maybe you can form a body, but there is a flaw." "What flaws? Tell me." Her heart was beating very fast. Dong 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 very fast. Ning Shu was afraid that her heart would explode. "That is, there is not much source of life every time. I have to go back and replenish my energy before I can generate energy. Get a little source of life for it and then run away." Even Ji now couldn't do anything. With her little mental strength, fighting with it was like a clay ox entering the sea. There was no point. "Then give me some source of life first," the heart said excitedly. Ning Shu condensed a milky white liquid from his fingertips, with a special energy and fluctuation, flew up and dripped the source of life on the colorful heart. The heart absorbed the source of life and then didn't have any reaction. "I can only absorb a little bit of energy each time. I can only make this little bit of source of life. I have to go back and absorb more energy. When I come back next time, I will make more for you." The heart was beating fast. "You are lying. You won't come back. I can feel it, especially the spiritual fluctuations you are emitting. It is telling you that you are lying. Are you lying to me to go back and get more energy? Or are you lying to me that this thing can't form a body at all?" Ning Shu, "Both. Anyway, it's hard to get off. You stay here. If I can't form a body, don't think about leaving." Ning Shu leaned against the wall. "But I am a little angel who is going to fulfill other people's wishes. I can't stay here for long. Then I will eat you." "Ning Shu, it is quite fun to be with you." "Huh?" Ning Shu sat down and looked at the spiritual ball in his sea of consciousness. There were 2 cracks on it and a little black spot. This black spot looked like something dirty. Was it because it absorbed the spiritual power in the spiritual stone? Dirty and broken, this poor spiritual ball. "I am so hot, a little uncomfortable," the heart said unbearably. Ning Shu didn't even raise his head and rolled his eyes. "Please don't say such ambiguous words. You must have eaten Chun Yao, and you are still hot and uncomfortable. Give me a little more, give me a little more." Ning Shu raised his head and rolled his eyes. He saw a colorful heart wrapped in a red flame, as if it was burning the heart. The heart was beating so fast that it even left afterimages. Ning Shu suddenly stood up. What's going on? What's wrong with you? Ning Shu hurriedly asked. I don't know. What did you give me? I am in so much pain. I want to kill you. The heart was beating so fast that it felt like it was going to explode. Ning Shu was really wronged. I gave you the source of life. This thing only has benefits and no harm. Your current state has nothing to do with me. Ning Shu was afraid of angering it, so he comforted, don't be afraid. Maybe the source of life is working. Other than using the law of life to pick up trash, or using the law imprint to pick up trash, she didn't use this thing at all. So she really didn't know that it would have such a big side effect. She could only lie for a while now. I am in so much pain, so much pain. The cave was full of spiritual power. The spiritual ball in Ning Shu's sea of consciousness cracked again, and a small crack appeared again. Ning Shu clutched his head. It was even more painful than his heart. Holy shit. In order to prevent it from becoming more violent, Ning Shu had to endure the pain and comfort it. This is normal. You must bear with it. Don't lose your temper. Ning Shu was also in despair. I am in so much pain. I have never been in so much pain. I want to eat you. Ning Shu condensed some more life force. Try it again. Maybe it won't hurt anymore if you put in a little more. Chapter 2879. She felt physically tired and her soul was in pain. If the source of life could relieve the pain, this should be able to. It was not that Ning Shu was very generous, but if she did not relieve the pain now, the raging spiritual power would turn her into ashes. Withdraw your spirit. Ning Shu felt very miserable. He came to find treasure, but he did not expect to be trapped here. She was indeed an interesting soul. The heart withdrew its spiritual power. Ning Shu condensed the source of life and dripped it on the colorful heart. One drop made a sizzling sound and was absorbed by the heart. It hurts more, I'm in pain. Ning Shu was directly hit by a spiritual power and was in great pain. While he was in pain, she quickly ran away. Ning Shu endured the pain of the spiritual power while letting the system teleport her away. But just as she was about to be teleported away, the heart's spiritual tentacles wrapped around her and she could not break free. Ning Shu wanted to cry but had no tears. Let go of each other. Why not let each other go? She could not leave. The heart was beating so fast that the whole mountain began to shake. When the Chongsam man arrived, he felt that the earth's crust was shaking. The spiritual power raged around the mountain. The trees growing on the mountain were twisted into powder, and some animals fled in panic. There was no way to pass. I've already done my part by bringing you here. I have to go now. This place is too scary. The mission enforcer who had been picking up the spirit stones with Ning Shu brought the man in the Chongsam away in a panic. The Chongsam man grabbed him. What's inside? Anyway, don't go in. We were lucky to be able to come out. I think she's already dead. The mission enforcer finished and left. The Chongsam man frowned and fanned himself. He took a few steps back and looked at the shaking mountain. Was she dead or alive? What was the situation? He was not even in the mood to pick up the spiritual stone. At least he helped him get the world tree. Now that there was a problem, he had to come and take a look. In the mine, Ning Shu was entangled by the spiritual tentacles. She simply stayed motionless and tried to protect her spiritual ball. Her spiritual ball could not withstand any more torment. If it came again, it would be game over. Ning Shu expressed his despair. The heart wailed in pain. It was so painful that it was deformed. It changed from the shape of a heart to that of a ball. It was very round, and then it became oval. During this process, his heart was in so much pain that he howled in agony. It was as if he was in a boundless hell, enduring the devastation and torment. Ning Shu felt that it was being tortured just by listening to its voice. He didn't understand why such a thing would happen, but it was obvious that this happened because of the source of life. Ning Shu cowered in the corner, trying to reduce her presence. She was afraid that it would go crazy from the pain and kill her. What a blunder! The source of life was supposed to be harmless, so why was this happening? Ning Shu held the brain and absorbed the spiritual energy that was close to him. I'm in so much pain. What did you do to me? I'm in so much pain. I'm about to be torn apart. Ning Shu bared his teeth. Don't resist. Go with the flow. Quickly withdraw your spiritual power. Don't resist. The more you resist, the more painful it will be. She really had no choice but to spout nonsense. She was about to be blown up by the raging spiritual power. The heart painfully withdrew all the spiritual power, and the entire mountain range stopped trembling. Seeing this, the Cheongsam man jumped into the river and wanted to enter the mine, but then an even more majestic spiritual power surged over like a roaring wave. The Cheongsam man quickly retreated. Such a terrifying spiritual power. It hurts even more. It hurts even more to withdraw the spiritual power. The heart was in so much pain that it couldn't bear it and released an even more terrifying spiritual power. Ning Shu was the first to bear the brunt. Even with the help of the brain to absorb the vast spiritual power, the spiritual ball in his mind was quickly covered with cracks. With a little more power, it cracked into countless pieces. If he used his spiritual power, the spiritual ball would definitely collapse. Ning Shu hugged the brain tightly. After releasing a large amount of spiritual power, the heart didn't hurt so much. Although it was still groaning, it didn't sound so painful. Now it had developed from a ball to an embryo, forming an irregular shape. Ning Shu's heart skipped a beat. Was it really going to form a body? The source of life also had this effect. Whether it was true or not, Ning Shu shouted, "You are forming a body. Don't worry. Don't release any more spiritual power against me. My spiritual ball is about to crack." Body? Do I really have a body? Who knows? Ning Shu nodded. Probably maybe. Ning Shu felt that the source of life wasn't so awesome, but it did look like an embryo developing in the stomach. In short, he had to stabilize this guy first. Her spiritual ball. Ning Shu collapsed on the ground like a dead dog. She was afraid that if she moved, the spiritual ball in her sea of consciousness would break into countless pieces. Most importantly, she was in pain. The pain of her soul being torn into countless pieces. Even with the spiritual stone, Ning Shu felt that it couldn't make up for the loss of the spiritual ball. The spiritual ball was the foundation, and now the foundation was destroyed. Ning Shu's chin was on the ground. She lifted her eyelids and looked at the floating heart. As if it felt that it was going to have a body, the heart emitted a happy and excited mood. Even the pain felt like a sweet burden. But Ning Shu was very worried. What if it couldn't form a body? Did she have to stay here forever? This heart obviously wouldn't let her go. She wanted to escape, but was immediately entangled by the spiritual tentacles. Being crushed by the other party in all aspects, Ning Shu's heart was cursing. Now she could only rely on herself. And the heart didn't say that it ate her before. It should have felt the aura of the source of life and instinctively felt that this thing was good for it. It wanted to eat her. If I really have a body, I will repay you. The voice of the heart flew, still unable to distinguish whether it was a man or a woman. Repay? Ning Shu felt that her disaster had just begun. What worried her the most was her spiritual ball. If it broke, she wouldn't be able to use spiritual power in the future. Ning Shu supported her chin and played with the brain. She didn't know how much spiritual power the brain had absorbed. Even a brain was stronger than her. Ning Shu felt that she might really be too useless. She had the feeling that the whole world was stronger than her. Why was she a waste? The Cheongsam man hesitated. Should he leave or stay? Wait, was she still alive? If she died, would the law imprint still be there? Don't waste it. It was better for the damned woman to stay alive, in case someone died because of him. Let's wait. Let's wait a few more days. Could she come out? Let's go in and explore. The Cheongsam man put a lot of props on his body. At least it would be easier to escape. Chapter 2880. Ning Shu felt that it would be easy for him to kill this pair of siblings. Gong Rong's sophistry was an eye-opener for Ning Shu. Do you think your hands are clean? Ning Shu asked. Are they not clean? Gong Rong asked back. Gong Rong suddenly grabbed Ning Shu's hand and looked at it over and over. Can you guarantee that your hands are clean? They are not clean. They had been stained with blood. She had saved and killed people along the way. How could they be clean? But Ning Shu had a clear conscience. Ning Shu pulled his hand out of Gong Rong's grasp. Ning Shu felt goosebumps all over his body. You are angry, but you are angry at your own incompetence. You came for the money, but you feel that you are innocent. SR Group's money did not come from nowhere. Besides, the 10 million is real. It is for the sole survivor. Ning Shu's face was cold. He tilted his head and looked at Gong Rong. Continue to brag. Did I drive a knife and let you participate in the show? Did I drive a knife and let you kill people? If you had a little bit of rationality and thought about it, you would not have participated. One is willing to be beaten and the other is willing to be beaten. Ning Shu nodded. Yes. It's all our fault. You are innocent. You are peerless white lotuses. Ning Shu looked at Gong Fu, who was wearing an earpiece, and asked, will she be the successor of SR Group? This drill is a test? Gong Rong nodded. It's time for me to succeed and retire. Ning Shu rolled his eyes and asked again, is it true that you are sick? Gong Rong nodded. Of course it is true. What illness? Just, I have cat disease. Ning Shu supported his chin and looked at Gong Rong's back. If the successor of SR Group died, it would be amazing. It would be amazing to be able to make Gong Rong, who had cat disease, feel pain. I remember that your mother needed a kidney transplant. She even found a kidney and was ready for surgery at any time? It was clearly a question, but Gong Rong's tone sounded like she was stating a fact. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes. This pair of brother and sister were really good at grasping the weaknesses of others. Ning Shu didn't deny or admit it. He just stared at Gong Rong. Is it an honorable thing for you to grab hold of other people's weaknesses? Ning Shu asked incredulously. Ning Shu didn't dare to act rashly, and he didn't know what was going on with the client's mother. The contestants participated in this program because of their mothers. Their mother whom they depended on for survival. Ning Shu finally understood that the so-called survival program was just a cover that SR Group had let the TV station come up with. They were playing a real-life game. We are not on the same level. Our worldviews are different. For example, there are many audience members who like to watch bullfights. The bullfighter clearly knows that it is very dangerous and that he might be killed by the bull, but if he dies for money, can you blame the audience? Ning Shu said indifferently, don't talk to me about the world. I haven't even seen the world. When would she be able to successfully construct her world? In other words, you deserve it. Do you think you are innocent? We are cruel rich people. Every class has its privileges. Otherwise, why do people have to work so hard to climb up? The pursuit of fairness is something that only the weak of the lower class are obsessed with. Ning Shu looked at Gong Rong inexplicably. You are talking so much to me. Are you trying to change my worldview? Gong Rong spread out her hands. Sorry, I talked a little too much. It's just that I haven't talked to someone like this for a long time. Ning Shu sneered in his heart. When he was about to stand up, he heard the sound of the door opening. The lean man, Li Zhao, pushed the dining cart in and pushed it in front of Ning Shu. He opened the lid and put a steak on the table. After the steak was served, another dessert was served. Ning Shu had learned how to make pastries. Looking at these pastries, they must have been made by a chef. The color was beautiful and the shape was exquisite. Gong Rong propped up Ning Shu's chin and said, Ning Shu sniffed the steak. Did you poison it? Or is this the last dinner? Gong Rong's red lips opened slightly. How could it be? If it is the last dinner, I will definitely make something delicious for you. Fu, you should go eat too. Gong Rong said to her sister. Gong Fu took off her headset and walked over. Sister, aren't you coming with me? Gong Fu glanced at Ning Shu. Are you going to accompany her? Go ahead. I think it is quite interesting to talk to her. Gong Rong said gently. Gong Fu glanced at Ning Shu again before turning to leave. Ning Shu pointed his finger at Gong Fu under the table and an invisible force entered Gong Fu's body. Gong Fu's body froze and her face turned ugly. She couldn't help but clutch her chest. She felt as if she had bumped into something invisible. After a spasm, the feeling disappeared. Gong Rong hurriedly stood up and walked to Gong Fu's side. She asked with concern, "Fu, what's wrong?" Gong Rong's concern for her sister was sincere. Ning Shu cut the steak. The steak tasted very good. Gong Fu shook her head, "It's fine." Gong Rong said to Li Zhao, "Protect Miss well." Li Zhao bowed and sent Gong Fu out. She followed closely behind Li Zhao. Gong Rong sat in front of Ning Shu again. She looked at Ning Shu and said, "I especially don't like it when you look at me like a murderous demon." Ning Shu shrugged, "I don't. Different classes have different thoughts. Just like now, you are eating beef. Have you thought about what the cow is thinking? Aren't the resources that humans need to survive all taken from other species?" The food chain doesn't only exist for different species. The food chain between humans also exists. Gong Rong propped up her chin and looked at Ning Shu. "Is the beef delicious?" Ning Shu put down his knife and fork. He had no appetite at all. "Why are you talking so much to me?" Ning Shu's face was cold. "I want to change your rotten and naive thinking," Gong Rong said. Ning Shu became even colder. "I thank you. Thank you to your whole family. You changed my worldview and then?" Ning Shu asked. Gong Rong was really bored out of her mind. "Nothing. I think the world is very stupid and easy to incite." Gong Rong propped up her chin, very naive. Ning Shu picked up his fork and ate the dessert. "The world is stupid. You are the smartest, huh? Little girl, I don't like your tone." Gong Rong shook her head and said. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "Do you want me to kneel on the ground and kowtow 3 times and 9 times? Are the desserts delicious?" Gong Rong asked. Ning Shu nodded. "Not bad, not bad." With a ding, the door opened. More than 10 people wearing bulletproof vests and holding guns came in. Chapter 2881. Why did such an armed force suddenly rush in? Ning Shu stood up, his body tensed up as he watched Gong Fu walk in. Gong Fu coldly said, "Sister, when can you change your bad habit of talking nonstop?" Gong Rong asked, "Finished eating so quickly?" "Sister, there is no need to talk so much with her. Capture her." Gong Fu lightly said. "Don't try to resist. These guns are the latest model. They are very lethal and very fast. If you obediently submit, you will still be alive. If you resist, you will not even have a life." Gong Fu coldly said. "Sister, I don't like her. She has no self-awareness." Gong Fu coldly stared at Ning Shu. Probably because Ning Shu's attitude from beginning to end was too relaxed, it made Gong Fu very unhappy. Ning Shu's expression was indifferent. "Why are you capturing me?" "Of course it is to complete my arrangements and let you be the last person. You will receive a reward of 10 million. Don't you need money to save your mother? This money is enough for the surgery, but your mother will be saved, but you will have to go to jail. No, you might have to eat a bullet." Ning Shu rolled his eyes, making Gong Fu's expression even colder. The short-haired Gong Fu was cold and emotionless, looking at people with eyes like ice shards. Gong Fu waved her hand. A person shot at Ning Shu. Ning Shu supported himself with his hand on the table, barely avoiding the bullet. Ning Shu exclaimed in his heart, the speed of the bullet was really too fast. If not for the help of his mental power, he would not have been able to avoid it. The Gong family actually had such an advanced weapon. Who knew how many armed forces were on this ship? If they all fired at him, Ning Shu did not think that he could avoid it. Ning Shu supported himself with one hand on the table, grabbed the steak knife with the other. His body slid on the table, slid to Gong Rong's side, and seized Gong Rong with lightning speed. Ning Shu strangled Gong Rong's neck and laughed. "Do you believe that I will kill her?" "Brother, sister, let go of my sister." Gong Fu's cold face cracked. Gong Rong burst into laughter and reached out to grab Ning Shu's hand that was around her neck. Gong Rong wanted to throw Ning Shu over her shoulder, but she found that Ning Shu was too strong. As a man, he actually couldn't pull the woman's hand away. Gong Rong's expression slowly turned serious. "What do you want?" Gong Fu coldly looked at Ning Shu and asked, "You better let go of my sister. Otherwise, I cannot guarantee that you will be able to leave this place alive." Ning Shu pressed the shiny knife against Gong Rong's neck and pierced it, causing blood to seep out. "Even if I'm going to die, I'm going to drag your big brother down with me. No, big sister, who cares about him, will die together." Ning Shu felt that this scene was very familiar. She had fucking kidnapped someone again. He was afraid that she would end up in the same situation as before. This mission wouldn't fail, right? Prepare a yacht for me. Fill it with oil and put the little black girl on the yacht. Gong Fu's face was cold. Ning Shu expressionlessly used the knife to stab Gong Rong's neck. "Go prepare the yacht." Gong Fu had no choice but to order the skinny man, Li Zhao. Li Zhao quickly bowed and went to do it. Ning Shu slowly moved towards the door. Gong Rong was taller than Ning Shu, so she could only bend her legs. It was very uncomfortable. Gong Rong opened her mouth and said, "Little girl, can we discuss this? I can walk by myself. It's very uncomfortable for you to drag me along like this." Ning Shu chuckled in Gong Rong's ear, "Even if it's uncomfortable, you have to endure it. I'm being pointed at by a gun. I'm very scared." Gong Rong couldn't help but say, "To be honest, we are so close, but I can't even feel your breasts." "Fuck you." Ning Shu kicked Gong Rong's leg. "If you talk nonsense again, I'll be scared and slit your neck." Ning Shu said indifferently, "But I touched your fake breasts." Gong Rong lowered her head and saw a hand on her chest. She asked, "How does it feel?" "Fuck, the quality of your silicone is not good," Ning Shu said while dragging Gong Rong to the deck outside. Many black muzzles were pointed at Ning Shu. "Fuck, there are so many guns. I'm a little scared," Ning Shu said. "Have you prepared the yacht that I asked you to?" "Are you scared?" Gong Rong asked. "I see that your heart is not beating and you're not breathing. I don't think you're scared at all. You're the dead person whose heart is not beating and breath is not breathing. If you let go of my sister, I'll let you go." Gong Fu coldly said, "I'll give you one last chance." Ning Shu didn't believe a single punctuation mark. He rolled his eyes and said, "How about I use you to exchange for your sister?" Gong Rong immediately said, "No, I'll be your hostage." "Sister." Gong Fu's voice was urgent. The little black girl was also dragged out. Seeing such a confrontation scene, she was so scared that her black face turned white. Li Zhao came over and said, "Miss, the yacht is ready." Ning Shu said, "The yacht is full of oil. Is there food and water on it?" Li Zhao nodded his head. "Little black girl, you go to the yacht first, we'll leave here." Compared to the size of the ship, the yacht was much smaller. The little black girl hurriedly went up the ladder to the yacht. Ning Shu loudly said to the little black girl, "You check if there is food and water on the yacht." The sea was vast. Without food and water, it was easy to have an accident. "There is." The little black girl put her hands in front of her mouth like a trumpet and shouted to Ning Shu. Ning Shu was a bit annoyed. She kidnapped Gong Rong, so it was not easy to climb down the ladder. Ning Shu moved back and turned his head to look at the small yacht below. "Fuck, I might as well jump down." Ning Shu moved to the edge of the deck and was about to fall down. Gong Fu immediately said, "Isn't the thing you want ready?" Ning Shu smiled, "Bye-bye." Ning Shu grabbed Gong Rong's neck, his body leaned back and fell down from the ship. He accurately hit the small yacht. Ning Shu circulated his qi in his dantian to reduce the force of the fall, but his body was still numb. Gong Fu was so shocked that she hurriedly ran to the side of the deck. She looked down and shouted loudly, big brother, quickly start the boat." Ning Shu said to the little black girl, I don't know how to drive, and I don't know how to drive a boat." The little black girl was so scared that she stammered, "Actually, I know how to drive a boat." Gong Rong's heart was still entangled. "I fell from 30 meters and fell into the small yacht, but I didn't die, even the cushion under me didn't die." The current situation was really unimaginable. Gong Rong pressed down on Ning Shu's body. She felt that her body was soft. Was this the reason why she didn't die? The question was, Why didn't this woman die? Fuck. Chapter 2882. When Ning Shu heard that Gong Rong wanted to start the boat, he sneered. Don't think that she didn't see so many guns pointing at her. She still needed Gong Rong to be on top of her as a shield to block the bullets for her. Gong Rong was very puzzled. If you don't let me start the boat, how will the boat go? Young Master Gong, you don't need to worry. Ning Shu released a huge formless energy. The energy drilled into the water and sank to the bottom of the boat. Then, it pushed the small yacht away. We're moving. The little black girl said excitedly, but she was also smart. She did not stand up, but crawled in the cabin. Although it was called a small boat, it was really a small boat. It didn't even have a room. It was used for surfing and didn't even have a roof. What the hell? Gong Rong felt that he was dreaming. Otherwise, how could such a strange thing happen? No one was driving the boat, and the boat was running on its own. Moreover, it was running very fast. It was really like seeing a ghost. Ning Shu stretched out his hand and grabbed Gong Rong's beautiful long hair, pulling her head back. Gong Rong screamed in pain and was forced to raise her head. Get off my body, Ning Shu said coldly. Gong Rong looked thin, but he was quite heavy. It was probably because of his bones. Gong Rong was pulled by his hair and said in pain, "Let go first, I'll get up when you let go." Ning Shu let go of Gong Rong's hair, and Gong Rong got up from Ning Shu's body. Start the boat. Ning Shu used a knife to press against Gong Rong's waist. What the fuck? Gong Rong bared his teeth. Be careful, my kidney is on the ground. Do you know that a man's most important place is this place? Ning Shu, exercise? Isn't a man's most important little brother? Without a kidney, my little brother can't stand up. Gong Rong flipped his hair and climbed to the front to start the boat. The little black girl was somewhat confused as she listened to Ning Shu and Gong Rong's words. She really didn't understand the meaning of their words. Gong Rong steered the boat. Ning Shu was behind him, pressing a small knife against his waist. The speed of the ship was very fast, and soon the ship behind it became a small black dot. Little girl, don't point the knife at me. If a wave hits and the boat jolts, the knife will stab into my body. Gong Rong said helplessly. Ning Shu chuckled. Actually, I really want to poke holes in your body and watch your blood flow out like a fountain. Gong Rong was silent for a moment and then said, good idea. Ning Shu was constantly paying attention to the way Gong Rong steered the boat, and then silently memorized it. Stop, Ning Shu said. Gong Rong didn't stop. Ning Shu stabbed the knife into his flesh. Stop. Gong Rong stopped and touched his waist with his hand. His hand was stained with blood. He somewhat angrily said, didn't I say, don't stab my kidney? It doesn't matter if you have a kidney or not. Ning Shu sat in the driver's seat, patted his leg and said to Gong Rong, sit on it. Gong Rong was a bit confused. Sit on your thigh? Hurry up, sit on it. Because I'm worried about you. Only when you sit in front of me, you won't dare to do anything. Ning Shu was afraid that when he steered the boat, Gong Rong would counterattack or even jump into the sea. Then the bargaining chip in her hand would be gone. Gong Rong, men and women can't be separated clearly. What kind of man are you? If you want me to stab your throat with a knife, then stand still. Ning Shu held the table knife and was about to throw it over. Gong Rong was helpless and could only sit on Ning Shu's lap. You're so heavy, Ning Shu said in a deep voice. Ning Shu steered the boat and used the satellite navigation system to locate his position. Your legs are really uncomfortable. Gong Rong felt as if she was sitting on two bamboos. It was really fucking uncomfortable. I promise I won't cause trouble. Be obedient and be your hostage. Don't make me sit on your lap, okay? Gong Rong said. Ning Shu immediately said, then hurry up and get up. My legs are going to break because of you. Gong Rong stood up and stood beside Ning Shu. The wind blew her hair into a mess. Ning Shu's heart was in a mess. What was she going to do in the future? After kidnapping Gong Rong, Gong Fu would definitely not let the client's mother off. She had to return to land as soon as possible and go to the hospital to see the client. She had become a kidnapper now. If she didn't hold Gong Rong, she wouldn't even be able to get out of the boat. Gong Rong's face was hurting from the wind. She sat down and tidied her hair. Ning Shu glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. "You look really pitiful." Gong Rong coldly said, "Little girl, I'm telling you. I'm only a hostage. Don't drool over my beauty." Ning Shu pulled up the corner of his mouth and laughed. Who would drool over a perverted beauty? The weather was very hot. The black girl took out bottles of pure water from the box and gave one to Ning Shu and another to Gong Rong. "Drink it sparingly. Who knows when we can leave the sea?" Ning Shu said. "As a hostage, you can only drink one mouthful." Ning Shu snatched the bottle from Gong Rong's hand. Gong Rong didn't look like a hostage. Could it be that she didn't look fierce enough? Gong Rong should be scared to death. Ning Shu stretched out his leg and kicked Gong Rong. Gong Rong looked at Ning Shu from the corner of her eyes. "What are you doing? Be honest." "I'm very honest." "Ning Shu, I beg you to be in fear and trepidation." Gong Rong was really not afraid of death. Ning Shu suddenly asked, "Do you not have long to live?" Gong Rong looked at Ning Shu and raised her eyebrows. This action was full of heroic spirit. She asked, "Why do you think so?" "You said that you have a cat disease. You're training your sister to be the successor of SR Group. You're not that old now. If you don't have long to live, you won't be so anxious." Especially after kidnapping Gong Rong, Gong Rong's actions were too calm. She didn't seem to be afraid at all. The more Ning Shu thought about it, the more he felt so. Fuck, kidnapping a dying person was useless. If this person died in her hands, she would be a kidnapper and a murderer. Gong Rong smiled, but it made Ning Shu's heart sink. "How can a beauty like me die?" Ning Shu released his spiritual power and scanned Gong Rong from head to toe, inside and out. He wanted to see what was wrong with Gong Rong. Ning Shu didn't see any obvious changes. He only felt that Gong Rong's internal organs were aging rapidly. They were supposed to be young and healthy, but the internal organs were like the internal organs of a person in their 50s or 60s. Ning Shu didn't say anything. It seemed that Gong Rong could still live for a while. The days at sea were very boring. Gong Rong was a little tired and lay on the chair at the back to sleep. Ning Shu asked the little black girl to keep an eye on her at all times. Ning Shu was worried about the client's mother. He even suspected that after the client arrived at the island, her mother was controlled. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.